Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Looks like we have a big audience. Our first order of business is public comment. Do we have any presentations from staff or awards during public comment or no? No? So yeah, I guess we might. All right.
Sorry, no, it's not really an award or presentation. I just want to give you a little update on the dispatch situation.
Please.
Oh, yeah, lovely.
Okay, so last Wednesday, we switched over and had one dispatcher here and utilized one in Rice Steel dispatch. Ben Klinger and I went over to Rice Steel to their committee meeting. Joint. Okay, thank you. We went over to the meeting and of course, as usual, when you switch over, things happen. Unexpected. We had a problem with the phone system. Ben got on it with Lumen right away. And it took most of the day, but they got the situation resolved. So far it's going well. We went over there and met with their board and just gave them the thank you for helping us out through this. So far it's going well. And I just want to say Ben did a good job getting us going. And I was very appreciative to Dave Fruth. He came out of the jail when we had the problem with the phone system and got in there and helped out. So it got us through it that day.
Super.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Good. Thank you for the update.
Keep us posted.
Yep.
It was discussed briefly at our emergency communications board meeting yesterday. They were more enthralled with Mauer working with Olmsted County. But I said, well, we're doing similar with Rice Steels.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're working well together, I said,
Yes.
as a group.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ben.
So we now have about a 10-minute public comment period. We hope that folks can limit their comments to 2 minutes, but you're free to share your thoughts on any topic with the Winona County Board. If you're here in the room or online and you would like to share some thoughts, please come to the podium, tell us your name and address, and go ahead and share what is on your mind.
My name is Louis Bourne and I am a resident of Winona County. Pass it. One of you so you can understand what I'm talking about. I'm here about a problem with my land.
Louis, you need to say your name, full name.
Louis Bourne. I live at 2511 Carolyn Place. It's actually in Homer Township. It's on the back end of Valley View Estates, if you know where that is. My wife, Mary, and I purchased a 5.9 acre lot on your sheet in front of you, one ending in 1042 and the other lot ending in 7100, January 13th of 1989. Our original appraisal shows that we purchased 5.9 acres, and all of the property tax statements we have received show the same. The original survey by Richard Helverson in 1988 also shows that we own both parcels. At that time, lot number 71 was owned by Mark McGuire. He came to us in about 2020 and said that he still owned lot 7100 and he was paying property taxes on it and proved it to me by showing us his property tax statement. At that time, we had a land attorney look at it and it was determined that parcel 7100 was owned by Mary and I, my wife and I. We told Mr. McGuire the findings, assuming he would contact the auditor about the problem that both of us had been paying taxes on the same parcel for 37 years. Mary and I then hired Johnson Sofield, who are experts in this matter, and they concluded that lot 7100 belonged to Mary and I. In late April, we contacted Bob Bamanek, who's been very helpful with this problem. After several months and numerous visits with Bob, he sent us an email with a carbon copy to Chelsea Wilbright dated September 11th, 2025, and I'll quote from Bob's email. We have reviewed these parcels and it clears the ownership of these two parcels to Louis and Mary Bourne. Since September of 2025, 11 months ago, we've tried to work with Chelsea Wilbright on this problem to no avail. She's always got an excuse that she's gone, been busy, or the cyber attacks. Chelsea now claims, after looking into it a little bit, that there's an actual third party that owns lot number 7100, which would be Dr. Bradley Woolner and his wife. She found this on Beacon. Mary and I feel we've gone the extra mile to prove our case on this matter through expensive of hiring professionals and spending countless hours with Bob Bamanick and other people researching legal documents involved in this matter. We feel Chelsea's done very little. And 2 weeks ago, I started leaving messages to call me to make an appointment to come in and see her. I left 5 messages to no avail, and on July 31st, I contacted Marcia Ward, and Marcia said she would call. Marcia called Chelsea and talked to her on July 2nd, if my date's right here, and she said that she had talked to Chelsea, and I can let her tell this, that she would call me back. 10 days have gone by, and yet again, I have not heard anything from her. To add insult to injury, I don't have anybody that I've talked to that's received one of these proposals for our 2027 taxes. But Chelsea's office sent this out, and they're raising my property taxes, my home valuation in 1 year, $69,000 increase, which is 14%, which doesn't apply to anywhere near what inflation is at. At this time, all I'm asking for is for somebody to help me get hold of Chelsea and to get this straightened out. My wife has become disabled. I'm not getting any younger, and it's getting a lot to take care of. And we're anticipating selling the property, but having a problem with the land involved with this, I won't be able to get rid of it. So I'm asking what I can do from the board to help get Miss Wilbright to give me some help. Bob's done everything he can. He got right on it. It took a couple months, but we worked together on this thing, and he got it all straightened out. He passed it on to Chelsea, and from there on, it's been nothing. I've taken my 2 minutes. And anything you can do to help?
Thanks. We do not typically interact. This is because you're not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In this time, we take your comments, but someone will get back to you.
Anybody got a suggestion on what I could do with Chelsea? Is that?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Maureen is our number.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's Louis and Mary Bourne.
Mr. Bourne, thank you so much for coming and sharing your
Thank you
thoughts.
for
with
having
us.
me. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Marcia, for what you've done.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to share some thoughts with us during the public comment period? Or if you are online, unmute yourself, say something to get our attention, and you can participate in the public comment. I'm going to ask one more time. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to participate in public comment?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I am very concerned with the increased number of cyber attacks that are taking place across the United States. I did a program yesterday morning for 41 seniors, and that was their biggest concern, one after another. There is a lot of history that we were threatened in earlier days by early cyber attackers that they would attack our water system. And it wouldn't take long and our country would be in a very, very sick predicament. I think it's even sicker to think that we have 1,360,000 permanent land records, the records to all the land, all the property on the land in Winona County. And I do not feel that we are fully protected. Recently, I had our software provider for land records, TriMen, come and do a presentation with us. Actually, we did it online. And they had some very, very solid predictions on what we should be looking at. Let's talk some more about this. Let's try to move it forward. They have assisted 19 counties in the region in updating software. I am asking the county board to please set some time. I would like you to hear the presentation from TriMen, and I would like you to be involved in this. This just isn't another piece of business for Winona County. And we can't go through what we did this past year. For 5 months, I spent the better part of 60-hour weeks. I reviewed documents that are out there, and I reviewed them for 2 reasons. First of all, to see if they were out there, and secondly, were they encrypted? And if you're going to ask me, what background do you have to do that? I helped 3 other counties in Minnesota that were cyber attacked. One of them I did almost immediately after I became the county recorder. And how many years ago was that? I think there's a lot of experience that I've had, and I'm asking for your help. I think this needs to have some major importance by the county, especially now at budget time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will ask one more time. Is there anyone else here in the audience that would like to share something during our public comment period, or if you are online? Hearing nothing? I'm going to move on. We have some minutes to approve.
I approve the county board minutes from July 28, 2026. I'll second that.
Okay, Commissioner Elsing moves, Commissioner Vagley seconds approval of the July 28th county board minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes. We have some other committee minutes.
I'll move to approve 4.1, the Planning Commission, and 4.2, the Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Ward moves, Commissioner Elsing seconds, the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment minutes. Planning from June 18th of this year, Board of Adjustment from May 21 of this year. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. County Attorney's Office, do you have any adjustments to the agenda? Nothing for the County Attorney's Office. Commissioner Vagley,
Couple comments at the end, please.
Commissioner Elsing.
Comments at the end.
I have a committee report. Commissioner Olson,
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Ward.
A committee report and a couple comments, please.
Okay. There are minor adjustments to the agenda, but nonetheless, we need to approve it.
I'll move to approve the agenda. Second.
Okay, Commissioner Vagley moves, Commissioner Elsing seconds approval of the agenda with some additional comments and reports at the end. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Administrator Holte, could you read the consent business for the record?
Absolutely. 6.1, approve conditional use permit for James and Sheila McNally. 6.2, approve conditional use permit for William and Jacqueline Underhill, 1. 6.3, approve conditional use permit for William and Jacqueline Underhill, 2. 6.4, approve office space lease renewal with Project Vine. 6.5, approve renewal of Veteran Services Office Operational Enhancement Grant Program Agreement. 6.6, approve amendment to medical examiner autopsy services agreement. 6.7, approve funding DPT step A or E in Winona and Lewiston Altura school districts. 6.8, approve funding transportation services as needed for treatment support and recovery. 6.9, approve application for fiscal year 2026 subsurface sewage treatment systems low income fix up grant and authorize county administrator to approve future applications. 6.10, approve install replacement emergency communications, repeaters and related equipment from Ancom Communications. 6.11, authorize disposal of excess furniture, excess equipment. 6.12, confirm payment of disbursements.
Is there a motion to approve the consent business?
So moved. Second.
Okay, Commissioner Olson moves, Commissioner Elsing seconds approval of the consent business as it was read. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. It is passed. Okay, we move on to general business. The first order is to receive a presentation from some librarians from Selco on the distribution of the library funds. This would be on page 97 of your packet, but I don't think there's any real details there.
Good morning, Chair Meyer, Commissioners. Good. Okay. So my name is Krista Ross. I am the Executive Director of Selco, and I do have the Director of the St. Charles Public Library with me today. And we're here to talk to you about the allocation formula for county funding, as well as I'm going to tell you a little bit about Selco. So we'll get started. If we could move the slide, please. Just an overview of the county funding process. Just some of the players. So of course, we start with you, the county, appropriating the county funding. The Winona County libraries actually determine the allocation formula. Once we get the lump sum from you, how that's going to be distributed among the 3 public libraries in Winona County. Selco's role in this process is fiscal agent, and in the next slide, I'll break that down for you. Then we go back to the Winona County Public Libraries, who then use that funding to provide library services to residents of Winona County. Next slide, please. So Selco's role as fiscal agent. What we do is we collect the data from the libraries. We verify that data. We put it through the formula that they have established. We run the formula. We send that formula once we've been run it through, and we ask them to make sure that we've got all of the data in the right place, that the math has, the formulas run the math correctly. We get their approval that they agree this is the right numbers. Once we have that, when we get to the year of funding, we invoice you, the county, or sometimes I think we send the invoices ahead of time. We take the funds that you get, we hold on to it as minimally as we can, and we turn that around, and 100% of that funding gets distributed according to that formula back out to those 3 public libraries, who then use it to make funds. So Selco simply is more like an accountant in this process. We don't keep any of the funding. It goes directly back out local so that it gets spent here in the county to provide library services. Next slide, please. And here's actually the formula. So currently, this is what they're using right now. And it's based on a percentage of rural CERC over 4 years. It's a 4-year rolling CERC. And when we say rural, what we mean is residents of Winona County who live in a community or in an area without a public library. So it does not include circulation from residents of Winona, the city of Winona, the city of St. Charles, or the portion of the city of La Crescent that is in Winona County. It is simply, but if you live in Iota or Dover, you would be included in that because those are the residents that are paying Winona County library tax. So we use, so when they're coded, when a person gets a library card, they are coded whether they live within the city limits or outside the city limits. So they're coded Winona County or City of Winona, Winona County or City of St. Charles. Yes.
I just want to point of clarification.
Mhm.
I pay property taxes. I live in the city of Winona. Some of my property tax dollars goes towards Southco, does it not, through the county proportion of the levy?
I guess that depends on how you do that.
You're probably paying twice.
Yes,
City
it would be paying at the city level and again at the. county.
Okay. Each county does it different. Most of our counties, most of our cities exempt themselves from the county library tax or have the ability to. The statute allows that. I think our agreement, that might be different in the Winona County Selco library tax, but most of them exempt themselves from the library county tax so that they don't pay twice.
Okay.
But law does allow it, so you may.
Thanks.
Thank you for correction.
Don't tell anyone more.
Oh, sorry. Oh, was this recorded? I'm sorry.
It is.
So basically what we do is we pull those stats. It comes from our software that does the checkouts. So basically what we're doing is we're using 4 years average. And the reason we use 4 years is because that adds some stability to the payments. So a great year for a library with circulation, or maybe a not so great year. And that can happen for any number of reasons. Whether a building project can both add a slower year for circulation during the construction project and a great year when the new building opens and there's excitement about the new library. What it does is it sort of evens out the circulation when we do it over 4 years so that we don't see these spikes and drops in funding for a library, which is hard to maintain. So we use the 4-year average, and then it is just each library's percentage of that total. And then we take that times the amount, and then that is what you see there in the highlighted column. That is what each library received for this particular calendar year. You'll see that in 2024, the libraries actually decided to move to this. And so in the next slide, you'll see how we actually look at this. So annually, the libraries decide, we ask them, do you want to continue to use the current formula, or would you like to look at a different formula? Also annually, we update that rolling formula. So it's always the current years. So for 27, the budget that you are looking at now, we're going to drop off the data for 2021 and we're going to add the data for 2025. So it's always fairly current, but it's always 2 years behind the funding that you're working with. And then periodically, they may actually look at it and decide, do we need to relook at the formula and how we are allocating it? And then that requires a vote of all 3 libraries to decide that they're going to do that. And that's what happened in 2023, is they looked at how they were doing it. They realized that there had been some shifts in over time in how rural CERC was happening, and they wanted to look at the formula. And so when we talked about the formula, you may have noticed that it said that we were doing it in thirds to move that formula in. One of the compromises they made was over time, we just didn't go to 100% rural CERC and make that change in 1 year, because that would have been difficult for the library for whom that change was not as advantageous as others, which is always what happens when you change a formula. It's going to be better for some than others. And so we did it in thirds. And 2026 represents the first year that it is 100% based on the rural CERC. So in 2025, it was 66%. In 2024, it was 33%. So they work together pretty well to make sure that everybody manages it well. So that's how the allocation happens.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Ward?
I'm a little confused because way back when, I'm not sure the date, but the amount the county has to contribute is statutorily required.
Mhm.
So how does that play into your formula?
Your
Use that as a base? I mean, and then,
Mhm.
La Crescent is, the majority is Houston County.
Mhm.
And then of course, I don't know, do we have a number of Wisconsin patrons coming across the bridge? Can a Wisconsin person get a library card in Winona?
That is, yes, out-of-state residents or non-residents can get a library card. The statute requires them to pay a fee for that. But locally, each region determines what that fee is.
But so again, back to that,
Mhm.
that statutory requirement. I guess I'm not sure how you came up with that formula, and I guess it's working for you. But
Right. The county meets its maintenance of effort, the statutory rates. You meet it in the total amount that you give. It's just for library services, and you have discretion in how you fulfill your mandate to provide for library services and the maintenance of effort amount that you are required to provide. In Scott County, up in the metro area, they have a county library. That's how they do it. In the Arrowhead region, they work with the Arrowhead library system to provide it. There are different ways to do it. In the Salco region, over time, it has become more advantageous for you to work directly with your public libraries. And so you fulfill your statutory mandate by funding, and then we work with the libraries because there are 3 libraries. We work to figure out how it's fairest or equitable for each of those 3 libraries to receive those funds to carry out those library services for the residents of Winona County.
we did it a number of years ago because we didn't want to be dividing the dollars.
Yes.
And I know we got a lot of information about libraries and everything.
Mhm.
So the 3 that are in Winona County, do we have a budget for each of those? Did we ever get full budgets for? Because even if we maintain the dollar amount, we know expenses continue to rise. So it is and people have I've gotten a lot of correspondence and some accusatory responses of being anti-library. But so how have they adjusted? Because if we keep giving the same dollars we did back, 5-6 years ago, it's not the same dollars in today's market.
Right.
So how, I guess one of my questions is how have the local libraries adjusted? And then I was in the metro area over the weekend, and there was a news article about I think it was Hennepin County libraries were cutting back on hours on
Mhm.
certain libraries
Mhm.
because of funding.
Mhm.
But I haven't heard of any impacts locally like that.
Mhm.
But I know, so, and then in Winona particularly, I'm sure St. Charles and said, and La Crescent too, the city donates. So
Mhm.
I guess I don't know where those dollars are or anything, and I apologize. Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe we received it. We received a lot of information.
I do know that with the funding request this year, we did, and I might turn
There
this over to
was
Jill
more
because, so
information.
yeah, there was more information and Jill has more information for you. I do believe we did try, I asked for that for the libraries because oftentimes in the past, what we have given you is Selco's budget and Selco's audit and Selco's 990. And Selco doesn't fund the libraries at the local operating level. And so we were giving you a lot of information that wasn't very useful for you to make that decision. And so I talked with Maureen and Phil and we decided that well, we're just going to give you a lot more information. Sorry about that. But I think more information for you. But I think I'm going to let Jill talk to that. And then
Basically, I think we did provide that information initially, but we'd be happy to send you our, budget again, for this year, to, show you where we're at, but, our city's been, nice about working with us to make sure we can meet all of our needs, and also keeping budget costs low for our taxpayers. Usually, you need more funding every year because increased costs, especially health insurance, which everyone knows. So, the city does have to increase the levy like you guys would need to as well to cover increasing costs, but we've been able to keep it very minimal over the last few years, or we tried to do that, so.
Okay. And I'm sure it's in this massive binder that I have. I just didn't scoop it out yet.
Thanks.
and the cities as well have a maintenance of effort that they have to meet as well. So.
Are there other questions from other commissioners?
And I was also asked to talk about Selco. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Selco, I do have the other part of my presentation. If you're still interested,
Yeah, you cut the rural buses out a number of years ago, and that was very disappointing to the rural community.
I know. That I still hear was in I think 2005.
Probably.
And I do hear some wonderful stories about the bookmobile. I experienced that myself in a different state when I was working there, and I know that those are very, very hard decisions, oftentimes made for what seems like good reasons. It doesn't mean that it doesn't negatively impact people, and sometimes for a very long time. I mean, that was 21 years ago.
To consider putting the free food, lunches and everything on the bus along with books. Combine efforts. Maybe we can get them back someday.
Yeah. Maybe.
Make them electric. People.
There we go. That would be nice. So if you want to,
Helsing has a.
I'm sorry. Hi.
I just have a basic question, and I bring this from a business sense. 93.3% goes to salaries and operating expenses, leaving 6.6% actually going towards books, DVDs, CDs, ebooks, digital materials.
Mhm.
That seems pretty lopsided to me, that most of it is just to keep the doors open. Very little of it's going to that. I also see from 2020 to 2025, we have roughly a 50% increase in expenses. But yet if 93% of them on a fixed basis is, and 62% is salaries, is the majority of that just salary increases in 5 years, 50% salary increases?
Did have an increase in salaries because we had a position that went to, it's not completely full-time, but it is like permanent part-time. I think the city classifies that, which included the benefits. So that occurred in 2021. And then also we've been having increased costs for building maintenance, especially our building's getting older. So we've been having to budget to keep on top of those maintenance costs. And then there's also just increased fees all around, like Selco's increased their fees. Not that much, but yeah, and then just keeping up with those types of costs. But we'd be, welcome if you wanted to attend our library board meetings, go over our budget. that type of thing, we'd be happy to discuss them with you.
I just making sure the numbers were correct. They seem very. But when I sat on the SWCD board, these are oftentimes things we would look at. We would get funding and 90% of the funding would go to administration and 10% was boots on the ground. And you have to go back and question the need for it. And is this a wise taxpayer dollar spent when it's just going to create a job versus how much is going to the actual service? And that's what scares me. Are we overstaffed? And that's what we would look at. Are we overstaffed? Are we understaffed? You know, if we put more staff, how does that change the numbers? So it's very lopsided to the administrative cost versus the service rendered, you know, so just curious to make sure why such a drastic increase in only 5 years. And the very disproportionate amount of money going towards just keeping the door open for staff, you know, so.
I would argue that the staff, though, is probably our greatest asset at the library, because we're not just providing, you know, the books and the DVDs. We are providing additional services, which we need people to staff to provide that. And then also our materials costs are low for the books and DVDs. We have, compared to other libraries of our size, I think we did a study a few years ago and we were on the lower end of that, but we've been keeping them low just to keep our costs down in that aspect.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, we have a county representative on the Selco board. What is their role?
Yeah, you, unfortunately, she just stepped down. So I'm hopefully here, I was here to pitch, hopefully you will reappoint someone. They are part of the governing board. So they have a vote in the oversight and governance of the Selco, the organization, the regional board. Yes, so.
And are some of those, Selco is multi-county.
Yes, 11 counties.
11 counties. Are most of those commissioners appointed to that board, or are they librarians appointed to the board? What's the makeup of the board? I guess I'm questioning.
The board, our board can be as large as 47 because it is representatives from each of the 36 public libraries and the 11 counties. They may not be employees of the member libraries. So they tend to be either board members of the public libraries, or sometimes they are past board members or friends or a citizen. When it comes to the counties, I have a mixture. Sometimes they are a citizen appointee, as Eileen Moeller was from this county. Sometimes they are a commissioner, and both are good. I do have a handful of commissioners right now. I do understand as a commissioner, you have a lot of responsibilities, not only your own counties or committees within the county, but you are often very involved at the state level. But a commissioner on my board brings another perspective that I think is very helpful when thinking about regional services. So I always appreciate when a county commissioner will give of their time for regional library services. That wasn't a hint. Sorry.
Okay, so we need to, I guess I was unaware that she stepped down, so.
Yeah, just very recently.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so you have more presentation?
I do.
Please.
If you would like to hear about Selco, I always love to talk about Selco, but if you are crunched on time, I can always.
We do have a big agenda today, but can you do it quickly?
I can do it quickly.
Thank you.
Nobody ever accused me of not being able to talk fast. Okay, Selco is one of 12 regional public library systems in Minnesota with a statutory purpose to strengthen, improve, and promote library services in our service area. We are what they consider a federated region, meaning that our member libraries are all independent and locally governed from us. They do not report to me. There are regions in Minnesota that are considered consolidated, where all of the authority and governing is at the regional system. Next slide, please. So we are really a regional service provider, since we are not actually providing direct library services to people in the region. Our service platform includes resource sharing and delivery. So the ILS, the Integrated Library System, is the computer software by which they check out. Cataloging is how we get those records in that software. Interlibrary loan is the process by which they share. And then delivery is how we get those physical materials around. We make 5-day-a-week delivery and move about 600,000 items through those 11 counties every year. Technology support. We support computers at the member libraries. We also support 33 of our 36 member libraries, their networks and the internet. Shared digital collection, maybe many of you know that as Libby or Overdrive. We help 35 of our libraries do that collectively so they can get more than individually. Professional development and capacity building, consulting, mini grants for local projects, workshops, and scholarships for library staff to attend state and national conferences. And we administer state and federal programs, the FCC E-rate program that offsets internet costs for libraries and schools, and the Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund's Library Legacy Program. Next slide, please. Our budget. This is our fiscal 2027 budget. We are on the state's fiscal year because they are our biggest funder. I'll walk you through that. It's pretty small, sorry. Our biggest 60% of our budget comes from what is known as RLBSS, or Regional Library Basic System Support. It is state funding out of the state's education budget. It is administered by State Library Services, which is part of the Minnesota Department of Education. Our next biggest funding is library fees at 21%. We have some of our services due to the cost. We offset part of that with library fees. Or in the shared collection, the shared Libby collection, they come together to buy the content. The next largest would be the library legacy funding. The next combined is you'll see CELS there. CELS stands for our sister organization, Southeast Library System, which is another regional system created in Minnesota statute, multi-county, multi-type, which is schools, academics, specials, and public libraries. Since 1987, CELS has contracted with CELCO for administrative support and service delivery. So that's about 5% of our budget. 2.2% of our budget is federal in the E-rate program. And then we have 0.2% is Minitex. They are a statewide agency that actually their biggest thing that most people know is statewide interlibrary loan and delivery. We get a very small amount of them to make the last mile delivery. Everything comes to us. We deliver to our members. And then we have a very small part of interest, which fluctuates depending on what the interest rate is. So this is our projected budget. We project a revenue of $2,702,452. Next slide, please. This is how we anticipate spending it. We use program to mean services. Our largest expenditures will be in the technology licensing, the ILS. The next one would be the digital collection, which is the Libby, mostly content. CELCO does use state dollars to pay for the platform fee to the vendor, and we also contribute a small amount to content itself. Delivery costs just under $200,000 to do 5-day-a-week delivery in 11 counties. The Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Telecommunication, that is the E-rate and the RLTA funds. That is, the bills all come to us. It's a consortial program, so the bills all come to us. Our libraries never see their internet bills. Interlibrary loan, we have a program that supports interlibrary loan between the libraries. We spend very little on advocacy and marketing. There are the library scholarships and the mini grants for libraries. Next slide, please. Sorry. Administrative costs. We do put all of our staff costs in administrative, although they are carrying out all of the services. So you will see we spend most of what we do, all requires a person to do it. None of the regions actually are considered state agencies, nor are we considered part of the counties, nor are we considered part of the cities. So built into that is a small administrative team that is paying all of our bills, doing our payrolls, et cetera, that we have to have on top of. Utilities and supplies, contract work, our staff development, and employee meetings. And next slide, please. We also have a small capital expenditures. Again, we don't have a parent organization, so we own our own building in Rochester. And our board has been very thoughtful about maintaining our single largest physical asset. So we have spent the last 8 years maintaining the building that is now 26 years old. Thankfully, we are coming into a lull in capital projects, so we have very little this year. The equipment rental includes things like our copier, but we also have a lease program for our computers. We actually lease our laptops every 3 years. Also included in that is we offer that program to our member libraries that are interested, so they can lease their laptops and desktops instead of purchasing them. The nice thing about that for our members is that we actually pay the lease to the company up front, and then we bill them over 3 years. And that is CELCO and our budget.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Just more for administration, I think. Can we get the packet? And
Yes.
the presentation is not in the packet. Could we
No.
get a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. Because the numbers are small, there's a lot of numbers and they're hard to see.
Just
Commissioner Ward.
one question. So
Yeah.
how big is your staff, the Selco staff?
It is 18 people or 17.75 full
Okay.
FTE.
Any other questions?
And that manages a budget of how big?
2.7 million.
So one more question.
Mhm.
And that's just Selco, right?
That
That's
is-
not any of the libraries combined into that.
No, that is just us.
Do you see a rise in private sector donations? I see 7%. Is there, which equates to about $25,000 here for the public funding aspect of that? This is St. Charles,
Mhm.
correct? Do you see a rise? Is that going up, going down? Where's the national average at?
I know most of our libraries have moved into that. There is a Selco Library Foundation that about 13 or 14 of our members are part of, including Selco. We have an investment in that is now a Smith. They're managing it for us to try and maximize donations from patrons, from the public. I know some of our libraries, Rochester Public has their own foundation, Albert Lee has their own foundation. Libraries are working, they write grants. We have libraries that are very prolific and excellent at writing grants to try and maximize programs that they can do. It sometimes depends on the economy, fundraising ebbs and flows.
Well, I guess I was leaning more towards, I just looked at this scenario and, I saw a lot of passion from the community to publicly fund the library,
Mhm,
but I don't ever see anything for private funding.
mhm,
And in my business mind, I looked at and started equating all the cards I got, emails I had, things in the paper,
Mhm.
stamp costs, postcard costs, standing out in the corner, holding signs up, fund the police or fund the library, excuse me. I look at all that cumulative time and I've learned in my life that my time is exceptionally valuable. So I just said, if everybody went out and worked for 4 hours that day, donated what they made, it would more than supersede what we give to the government, from the government, from the people's money, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And so that's how my brain works. So I said, wow, the opportunity cost to go out and maybe have a return on that investment versus if we would have went and just physically worked, took the money and donated it, and the private sector would have had a defined outcome because we know what we can generate doing that. So the question, and not that I'm against, lobbying, for any particular group. I mean, that's what this is all about, but I don't really see much lobbying to the private sector being heavily involved, and I'm more than willing to disclose how much I give, and it's probably way more than what our allocation up on top of our budget is, on top of what we're allocated for, just to all the different charitable organizations that I give to. So I'm just curious, is that a growing sector? And I would love to see that enthusiasm to the private sector, side of things so that we don't continually go back and force the taxpayer to pay for something that may or may not want something. I love the library. I'm not against the library, but I don't see any directive to the public for the private sector enthusiasm. I see it for the handout from the public sector. And so my question is if I was in your role, I would want to know where the national average is. Are we ahead or are we behind? Do we know where we're at on that? It's 4 to 8%. So just doing some quick Google searching, you're actually on the higher side of what that is. So I would challenge the local community as we saw that enthusiasm, let's take that and maybe turn it to the private sector or even look at ourselves. I just got another postcard. What would happen if we donated that time to a job and took the monies and donated it back to the library? That's the way my brain works. Hey, go get it yourself rather than go ask somebody else to do it. So where are we putting our effort? What is the library system doing with all these wonderful people that support it? And what's the communication to them as far as to drive a certain income? My suggestion would be, please continue to lobby your public sector, but also maybe take some of that initiative and put it into something you know will gain an outcome, which is, hey, I could work that extra Saturday and donate that money back. And I think maybe with that too, maybe they could put an earmark that says, hey, I want this to go to books, DVDs, and ebooks categorically, not more administrative staff. That's what I would do if it was me writing a check out. This has to go directly towards that side of it, no more administration costs. So I've been wanting to say that, so I appreciate this opportunity to let you know my thoughts as a business person, how I would like to see that change in the public sector.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for your time. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for coming today.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And I am aware of all of the work that the Friends of the Public Library here in the city do, the fundraisers that they hold, the different events that I've participated in over the years, including a dunk tank and jazz and I love the bingo, books, bingo and beer. I mean, so I know that at least I know that locally we've had a lot of creative methods of doing private fundraising, and I appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 7.2. We're going to receive a presentation from the McGrath Group and potentially approve a recommended list of comparable counties. Oh, we're not. We're getting it from.
We are. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
I thought
morning.
I'd kind of kick it off a little bit while Heidi gets it up. We've got Milena from McGrath will be presenting. You should have it in your packet. We had 3 vendors that looked at us to bid on this, not really bid, but gave us proposal, and McGrath did come out on that. They've been doing some work on it, looking at our comparables. Currently, we use 7: Blue Earth, Clay, Goodhue, Itasca, Otter Tail, Rice, and Sherburne.
One
Yes.
quick question.
Yes, Commissioner.
And I appreciate it. Is this mandated? Do we have to do these kind of salary comparisons or such, or is it just advantageous to us?
Twofold. One, it's a good practice being business. We should be doing them to see if we're in line with the market, as far as being competitive. As well as our contracts. We have 10 bargaining to associations and 8 bargaining agreements. We do need to use it for that purpose. Yeah.
Not truly mandated. It's just a good business practice.
I don't know how we'd get through bargaining without it. So by Minnesota statute, we have to bargain. In order to bargain, we'd have to have some comparables.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
Thank
yep,
you. That sets
yep.
the
So you
stage.
started with the current list. Could you
Thank you.
do it over?
Sure.
Yeah.
So currently we use Blue Earth, and it's been, Marine can give you the history. It's been years and years. Clay County, Goodhue County, Itasca, Otter Tail, Rice, and Sherburne are the 7 that we've been using for, I think, for our electeds as well as our associations. Yep. So Milena from McGrath will be presenting what they've looked at. They went out and looked at the market for comparables.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm going to do a screen share. And everyone should be able to see my screen at this point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. My name is Milena Halverson-Mays. I'm a senior consultant with McGrath Human Resources Group, and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you virtually this morning, as I had other commitments that did not allow me to be in person. I do have just a couple of slides because I want to establish the foundation for the conversation that we have to have this morning, and I will. This really does go into the very first question that was asked of, do we have to do this? And I'm going to take it a little step further to talk about what it is that we're going, that what we are embarking upon. The county has a very complex comp and class structure. You have upwards of 11 to 12 different salary schedules, and they are not always necessarily talking or relating to one another. And as you go into the bargaining process, and when you are also looking at your non-represented, As an employer, you want to make sure that the salaries that you are offering your employees for the retention of your personnel and the re-recruitment when you do lose them is going to be aligned with your competitive market. If the wages are too low, you will have turnover, or you might have difficult times filling positions, which does elevate your overtime, time to fill vacancies. I would even say it might even cause burnout with your existing personnel. And you also want to make sure that you are that you're being cognizant of those positions that might be on the top end. Do you have positions that might be higher in the market than what they need to be? And so organizations will oftentimes ask for vendors to come in and take a look at your compensation structure, look at the market, and look at position responsibilities so that we can draft recommendations to make sure that your organization is aligned with the competitive market. And what we're talking about here today is defining who your comparable market is going to be, that we go out to the market to study those specific wages from. So you utilize a comparable organization data set because we don't want to compare you against any one single employer. There normally is, I'm sure that there's going to be a conversation of a polarizing name that you're going to see on the list, but it's not intent. The intent is not to put you against any one specific organization. And I want to also just put out there with the methodology that we use when we work on compensation systems, the market data does not determine what your salaries are. There is an entire process that we utilize. The market data ends up being one piece of the puzzle that we utilize. We also are taking a look at position questionnaires. It's called a position analysis process, where we are valuing positions within the context of the organization. We also have compression factors that are at play. So, for example, you might have levels within an organization, and the market might not glean that those levels exist, but you have those in your bargain. So we need to determine how to best handle that. Plus, then this is where the relationship between all of these bargains come in, because you have supervisory personnel, you have subordinate personnel, and what does the level of separation look like for wages? Because if an individual is going to climb the opportunities that are presented to them in the county, because that's what you want long-term employees that will stick with the organization, there needs to be meaningful adjustments to the responsibilities and with the to go from a staff position into a supervisory position. So we look at a lot of different areas when we're building our recommendations. The market is very much just one piece of that puzzle. It is a very important piece of the puzzle, however, because it really is the foundation of what is the market telling us. And so when we are looking at or considering comparators, I will say that there has been a shift amongst public sector here, probably over the course of the past decade or so, because organizations have historically looked at, all right, what do we look like as a county? What is our tax base? What is our population? What are the number of lane miles? How many courts do we have? And how are metrics of that nature used to determine who those comparators are? And what the outcome of that might be then is that your comparators might be in absolutely different parts of the state. The challenge that's been happening in the public sector, as you are probably very well aware, is because of the changes in the market for the past 8 or 9 years, that philosophy or that methodology for identifying comparators is being abandoned. And more organizations are looking at it in the context of who are we competing against? And who you're competing against now suddenly becomes more regional influence and more adjacent influence. And that adjacent influence, I understand, is a county that is financially in a absolutely different part of the chart than what Winona County is. But we go back to they're just one piece of data, or they're one part of the data set amongst the entire group. And there's a lot of decisions that are made, about your data, and that goes down into the topic of compensation philosophy. I wasn't planning on talking about it here today, but compensation philosophy is of your comparators, of all of your comparators, where do you want to position yourself competitively? Most organizations would say that they want to be average, although there are some organizations that want to be a little bit above average, or they can be. And then you've got some organizations that are going to lag the market. And there's usually that is driven for financial reasons. So the comparator group is really just going to be the data collection and the analysis piece for us. Once we understand where you are positioned within that market, then we can start having the bigger policy conversation of, well, now what do we do with it? Where do we position you? Knowing that farewell, that you've got your county right next door is one of the leaders in the market. We would not expect that we're going to align your salaries. We're not going to align your salaries to them, but should they be part of the formula that we use to develop what your data set is. And so there needs to be somewhat of a balance. That balance also, because you might be previously or historically looking at counties in other regions, we know that wages are very regionalized now. Northern Minnesota is paying differently than the metro area versus the southern part of the state. And this is what has happened as a result of the market the past 6 or 7 years. So we are finding that if we're looking at your comparators by how you look in terms of similarity of size and type of operations, the data is not necessarily going to glean what your real market is, because at the end of the day, those salary ranges need to be competitive in your immediate region to be able to retain your folks. And when you ultimately lose them, because someday they're going to retire, we want you to be able to competitively backfill. So what we're looking for is a list of comparator organizations across the entire organization. This is going to include all bargaining units. And this is the end result of what we found. I have them broken down into two categories. When you're going to say, when you're kind of talking like you're talking outside of both sides of your mouth, and the answer to that is yes, I kind of am. Because on the left-hand side are those organizations that we believe are going to be a much better representation of what your actual market is, who you're competing against, where you risk losing your human capital to, really without going far into that metro. We really don't want to grab too much of that metro influence. We also know, though, that there is some historical element that the county may not be interested in letting go. And so there are 3 additional organizations, Crow Wing, Sherburne, and Wright, that seem similar to the county that we could add. I don't know what they're going to do, to your data. But I also will say, we don't approach this to say that you've got one organization within your data set that's going to drive your market. That's why we want to get a comprehensive look. So I think that if you decide that you want to add in Crow Wing or Sherburne or Wright, I think we certainly can. I don't know that there's going to be a negative outcome to it, but I at least want to put that out there. And there may be a little bit of extra context that the county wants to put out there in terms of those other 3. But McGrath's recommendations are those that are in the left-hand column between Blue Earth. There's a number of counties, and then we also have 2 cities.
Are there questions? Commissioner Elson. Okay, and then you, Commissioner Ward. Sorry.
That's okay.
That's okay, yeah.
Fine.
So when we look at the metrics of this, one of the things that concerns me is, and I guess there's a side that I pride ourselves on, and there's a side that scares me. One I pride myself on is, why are people coming to Winona County? The cost of living to our neighboring county, especially, I'm going to say something that's drastically disproportionate to Winona, which would be Olmsted County. And great for them. Obviously, they've got some real economic drivers for them, but we also know the tax base there is exceptionally high, which is why we see people coming over the border. I don't know if it's necessarily a fair comparison to put them in when we look at the statistics. They're 3.5 times the size we are. They run roughly a 26% higher average median household, which is substantial income. You know, although I could see us potentially losing people to Olmsted, I think for our county, which is projected to actually decrease in size, is the current projection anyway, it's difficult for us to try to bring people in, although to compete against that, but at the same time, is it a realistic thing to actually have on our comparison? And I know that the answer is going to be, we have to look at them because they're next door, and I get all that, but does that skew what it is that's realistic for our county trying to chase that? That would be my one concern on this list. I think the rest of them are fairly close. You know, when we look at Steele County's 38,000, you know, Goodhue County's 48,000, they're relatively close to where we are as a population and average medium household income. So my only suggestion would be that we do not include Olmsted, simply because it is so distant from what we actually are.
May I respond? Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, that Olmsted is in its own league. I approach this to say, we at least need to understand what the compensation is from Olmsted. And certainly there are, you know, others that might want to share their thoughts. If you ultimately opted to pull Olmsted out, my ask would be, can McGrath study this with Olmsted in, so that we at least know what your data set looks like with Olmsted and without? Because then what ultimately happens then is, we've answered the question of how much influence is Olmsted to the actual data set, and now you know. And I do a lot of work in the state of Wisconsin. We have this conversation a lot with the Minnesota bordering counties of whether or not we should include Minnesota or not, because your wages are just a little bit different than in Wisconsin. And we go through the same process of, we at least need to understand what's happening, even though we may not include it in the recommendations, because then, you know, this is a data fact-finding process. We've got the answer for you then.
So from a simplistic aspect, I could see that. The issue becomes when you start to compare things. That's why we have an average, right?
Yes,
And
that's why we have an average.
A median, right? And they're two different numbers.
Yep.
I mean, and that's why that's very simplistic stuff here. So the issue becomes is interpretation. And this is what I call the race to the top. If we allow Olmsted to skew the numbers by 5% year over end, guess what we're doing? We're moving drastically towards the same cost factor that Olmsted is, by simply putting them in the skew. Although we don't do it as fast, it still happens over time. It's like escalators in rent. It's escalators in contracts. They move very quickly. It's the same thing, giving a 6% raise to somebody that makes 200,000, a 6% raise to somebody that makes 50,000. Over time, it makes a big difference. And that's my fear, is that unless you can interpret the data beyond a simplistic form, we will edge towards closer and closer to where they're at. That's what scares me.
Sure.
No, I just want to make, but I know there's a rough.
Yeah, but I would ask that from the county attorney's office, do you have a legal response? I'm sorry, please forgive me. They're asking for a spot on the floor.
Actually, I have a question based on my experience as an
I just, I
economist.
call,
Please,
yeah,
no, go,
this is,
Commissioner Nelson,
yeah, I
please go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if you can follow what I'm saying, I'm trying to make a point that when we begin to skew numbers, we tend to lead that way, which is why I think it needs to be omitted. Yes, maybe we could have that on the outside to look in, but if you put two bar graphs in there, I feel as though people will look at that and say, we need to move towards that rather than putting into a realistic output of what we can actually do as a county. And if we run into a circumstance, and I'm going to use the dispatch situation where things get a little bit harder, sometimes we have to look at different ways. I look at my business compared to one of the big monstrosities out there. I don't get the privilege to do everything they get to do. I have to find a very creative or alternative way to accomplish the same task. So that's what, but in government, because we don't have to go out and earn the money, we can go out and just simply take it. We tend to gravitate towards that. So I just don't think it's something that we can have in there. If somebody wants to make a separate line item, but this, we make a lot of decisions based on this right here. And obviously this is our biggest portion of our budget. So I'd be very, very cautious leaving them in there based on that context. We want to create sheet 2 that says, here's some skewed numbers with Olmsted put into it. Great. But I think we take it as a one-off situation if we can't hire somebody in a particular area of our county government, the 320 some people that we have. And maybe we take that one off and say, hey, Olmsted's really beating us up here to try to find somebody in this situation. Then let's compare it to Olmsted rather than, I always say manage for the 90% and let the 10% fall into play. And I think this would be a perfect example to omit 10%, manage for the 90, and then the one-off case, hey, we'll compare ourselves to Olmsted.
Commissioner.
Yeah, a couple questions is, so you look at both government data and private sector. Is it data 50-50 balanced, or is it predominantly you feel we're competing with other government entities?
This list here is where we are going to go to those other government entities, and we're going to ask them for their salary ranges and for their actual incumbent wages, so that we can study market ranges to market ranges. There's a bigger question here about the private sector, most certainly, and what McGrath does if the county desires for us to weight or factor in private sector data, we use what's called, we've got a data set that we access from the Economic Research Institute that is, it's a nationwide database where it is updated in real time every 30 days, and we can get very narrowly focused into specific regions, counties, cities, etc. The data that is put into that is a blend of private and public. And we can then tell the system, we don't get to see the raw data, but we can tell the system that for example, we want you to put a 50% weight in the private, a 50% weight into the public. That is typically our default. The one area that we have to be very careful about when we do that, however, is that the public data that is included in that particular number is very likely going to be the data that we've collected from those comparators, and that we would be duplicating it. So when we do use ERI, we're not actually including it into the analysis, but we have the public analysis that we have, and then we can align the the ERI data alongside that, just because we don't control ERI's data. And that's always a limitation when it comes to the private sector, is that private sector does not need to release that information to us. And so we have to really be very cautious when we're touching that information.
Sure, understandable. Primary influencers, you don't have the state of Minnesota. I've heard locally here, we have lost more employees going to work for the state of Minnesota. So could that be a comparison, what they're paying, wages and everything? And part of that, as I understand, is that the COVID influence that allowed people to work from home and remote working. And I think the state has maybe more of a different policy for those factors, which I find to be huge influencers in people's choice of employment. So I don't, how can we put in the state of Minnesota, and then the COVID influencers? Do these counties, I think one of the big things is, do these counties allow remote work, options and
Right.
things like that versus just the wages?
So the answer of the remote work, the answer to that is yes, because part of what we are planning on studying is the benefits, and that is a topic that we can include in to find out what is happening, because there are different policies that are occurring. The state of Minnesota was a comparable that was brought up in a number of department meetings. I've met with all of your department directors to understand all of the positions in their department, and we've given them additional assignments to give us additional information per position, and all of that is well underway at this point. It is not uncommon to ask for the state to be included, and we certainly can. I think what we would want to make sure, though, is that we are looking at it in a we can look at it in one of two ways. Is it specific areas, specific professions that we're going to be seeking out versus, or is it going to be every and all relevant position? So you might have folks from the DOT, you might have individuals from the restorative justice program. We could even pull administrative assistants. So I think if we were to include the state, I would want some parameters from the county on, is it going to be everybody, or are we going to limit it?
Okay. And then union membership. Winona County tends to have more unions than anybody else in the neighborhood. So that will play into this study also, correct?
Well, at the end of the day, if your next door neighbor, I'm not any next door neighbor, they may not have, your position might be bargained and theirs is not. At the end of the day, the market is what the market is. It doesn't matter if it's represented or not. So will it have some influence? It might, it could. At the end of the day, all of our recommendations are going to be handed over to the county, and then you will have to go through that bargaining process of the impact. Are you going to accept our recommendations? What are you going to do with it? But we will understand where all of your comparators are in whether or not these positions are bargained or not bargained, but we won't eliminate data if yours is bargained and theirs is not, because we really just need to get to the true number of what is the true market, regardless if it's represented or not.
Okay. And then lastly, you said you look at the benefit package and everything. I'm a very big advocate for pay for performance. So I would really like to know, if we use these tier ones, who offers that as a benefit?
We can certainly ask the question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The county attorney's office has asked for the floor. I would like to prioritize opinions of the county commissioners, but if you do have a legal recommendation to us, I would like to hear that.
Well, it's not actually a legal recommendation, and with all due respect, we can also provide policy recommendations, but this is not a policy question. It's actually, I think, a question that the public might want to know, if I may, and partly from my economics background. Ms. Halverson, you had mentioned Wisconsin.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Nope.
You want the floor? I'll give it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'll try to. All right.
Project.
This is Karen Sonneman, County Attorney. Good to see you again. And
Good to see you.
you had mentioned the state of Wisconsin. I'm always concerned as a border community, that you can't draw lines and say that people stay in Minnesota or they work in Minnesota and not Wisconsin. In fact, we have a lot of people who live in Wisconsin who work here. And so I'm just wondering, did you look at La Crosse? Because that's one of the bigger cities, and there's a lot of back and forth with employment between here and so La Crosse County the city of La Crosse, those government entities would I think also be what Winona County might be competing against, at least from the traffic. And we've done studies, at least the Economic Development Committee here has done studies about how many people come in and out of Winona County going from work. So just wondering if that's a consideration or should we?
It has not been a consideration when we started working on this process of identifying the comparables. I'm not actually I don't believe that any of the departments identified Wisconsin as a factor. It has not come up in the conversations with administration just to get additional information. I don't believe any of the bargaining units are utilizing Wisconsin. Now, of what I know of Wisconsin, which is a lot, I live in Wisconsin. Right across the border from you is La Crosse County. La Crosse County is a driver in our respective market. The city of La Crosse is going to be going through a market update here later this year. And that's likely result of the La Crosse County changes that have been made. Now, if the county board desires for a Wisconsin influence to go in there, certainly there's going to be certain limits, right? We are not going to be able to look at the comparison of your Minnesota retirement system from the Wisconsin retirement system. It would be purely on wages only. Of the communities that are on the border, the city of La Crosse and La Crosse County are the only likely ones that we would recommend that you would consider.
And that's why I mentioned those two government entities, because again, your premise is that looking at who are we competing with County Winona, not kind of all the numbers in terms of salaries, but I think it's a large presence. It's a shopping destination, and if I didn't mention it in my department head meeting with you, I apologize, but that is a big driver.
I think that that would be a question back to the county board. I mean, I'm ultimately looking for the county board's direction and approval on this, even if that results in some modifications of the list. And so if the county board desires for a Wisconsin influence in there, I as a consultant, the firm will not start working on the market data collection process until we all are on board with who those comps are. We want to identify this and get this resolved before we start doing the market data collection instead of after the market data collection. So if that requires an additional conversation, then that's what we need to do.
Commissioner Elsing?
Sure.
And did you have a question?
If you take Olmsted out, I feel staff will be really frustrated that you take Olmsted out, but then you're comparing us to Dodge and Houston and Wabasha, which are at least half of what population, income base, all those things.
Thanks. I apologize, but I would like to prioritize the thoughts of the commissioners, but thank you. Commissioner Vagley?
So we are going to give a recommendation. We can add to the list, correct? Or we can subtract.
Correct.
So, and it is possible to have a list with Olmsted and then also to have a list without Olmsted.
Yes.
So it's possible to do both, right?
It is possible to do both, yes.
About that very topic, but I've been holding on.
And it's also possible to
everyone-
add, like Commissioner Ward mentioned, the state of Minnesota. That is a factor, especially public health, right? I think you're and some other departments as well.
Human services, not public.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit planning. We've had them still planning people, we've had them public
Yes.
health and everything.
Yes.
So it's cross.
So it's possible to add state of Minnesota, and it's also possible to add La Crosse County, La Crosse City as well. And some of the things won't be apples to apples, but it is possible, right? Okay, just to clarify that. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to get closer to a motion, but I won't make a motion.
What I wanted to know is, we can pick today, or, you know, we can make some choice that puts us closer to it, but each of the unions needs to adopt the list in order for this to actually move forward. We cannot impose that upon them.
No, that comes at bargaining.
But they could choose to reject the lid.
At bargaining, yeah. I mean, that, if we're gonna wait, that would put it on, because we're not bargaining until 2027. So we can put a list together, but the union may come with this is just to get our comps in place. This isn't, we're not bargaining it right now.
No, but it would be the basis of bargaining.
It would be for us. Yeah, for management.
So ultimately, what we decide is not the final decision.
So we need to have a list.
I get you. I totally get you.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I do have some other questions, but I'm going to allow you to go ahead.
Well, and I wanted to allude, kind of Commissioner Ward touched on this, and I brought it up because I've personally had to do this working as general managers for other companies, my own companies, where we know competitively on a wage base, we don't have the fiscal recourse to compete against something bigger. So that's why I brought up getting creative, and you have to list out the wage-based incentives that you can offer. And those are things like possibly work from home, cost of living being cheaper, commute time being better, maybe a benefits package that's better. Don't have to relocate, work from home like we talked about. I'm writing some of these down. I think a really big one that we need to leverage here is what I call a sense of presence. And I see this from people that are entwined into large corporations, even in the ag industry, or the support to the ag industry or outside the ag industry, where they don't feel as though they're I'm going to say the upper management, upper staff, anything is tangible, versus we operate where everybody pretty much knows everybody. And that's huge for some people when they have this sense of presence. Like, people know who I am. I'm not just somebody in a corner. I'm not just employee number 642-1 punching the time clock. So I think when we have the outliers like an Olmsted, perhaps a La Crosse or state of Minnesota, who are you in the state of Minnesota? You're a number. Who are you? Probably in Olmsted, you're probably a number. Versus here, we can walk down the halls and pretty much everybody knows everybody. So I call that a sense of presence. And I actually promote that as a way to recruit people, because I'm the owner, I'm tangible, you can talk to me. Not only that, but we do that in our sales stuff too. Versus if you work with some billion-dollar corporation, are you going to call the owner up? And people like that. They want to know who they're dealing with and who they're working next to. So I think there's just a lot of non-wage-based incentives that we can promote outside of simply saying, here, our neighboring might pay you 10, 15% more. We need to grasp that and sell that to the unions and say, hey, we might not be able to make this on a wage base, but here's what we offer on the personal side of coming to work for us.
Not sure who can answer this question, but when Commissioner Elsing was making his case for excluding Olmsted County, they do have, the way that I understand this, our GDP, our economic engine in Winona is about 5 times greater than that of Wabasha. Olmsted's is about 5 times greater than ours. So that's certainly true, but we don't include, the only time I see is when we do the elected department heads, we see an average and we see that calculation. But whatever calculation it is that goes into the salary structures for the union or for other employees, I don't think that I've ever seen that. So my question is, we don't put weight upon the comparables that we use now when we come up with, say, the sheriff's salary or the county attorney's salary. It's just whatever that position holds in that county. We are, if I look at the other list and the new list, we're adding a lot more counties that actually have a smaller economic base and probably, I don't know, don't pay the kind of wages that Olmsted does. So I'm not sure how that actually ultimately affects the calculation, because I only see it without a weight. And I don't know if a weight for the size of the government or the number of employees is employed when we do a calculation for our salary structure, which is why I would advocate, no, if McGrath wants to do it with Olmsted in and with Olmsted out to sort of see how that makes a change, I would like to see that, because I don't think it's a given that simply including Olmsted would raise the salary structures. Because we're adding a lot of counties that probably have lower salary structures that are included in this new list. Fillmore, Freeborn, Houston, Wabasha. So I'd like to see it both ways. Yeah, okay, Commissioner Elsing and then Commissioner Begley.
I would only think it would have to skew it, because if you're gonna put any sort of number in there, it's gonna be higher. So absolutely, it's gonna skew it high. I think,
No, but I'm saying not necessarily higher than what we have because there's a lot more lower income counties.
yeah, but where I'm going with this is our bargaining chip to represent us as a steward of the taxpayers' money to say this is fair and equitable. And
Also,
all
what
right over there, Commissioner Olson, you gonna make her? Gonna make her?
Yep.
All right, good. So to me, this sets the bar as to where we go. I look at this as this sets the baseline of where we know we need to be at a 90 percentile, where we can always go up.
Yeah.
If we set the bar here,
I'm just saying mathematically, I'm not sure how it works out and I'd like to see that.
maybe from an existing position, yes.
Yeah.
But I feel that even for the state of Minnesota could be thrown into that Olmsted category too, just
I
because
don't disagree with
the
that.
size and the scope of them is so different from us. And again, I go back to my non-wage based incentives where you're gonna lose a lot of those, right? So maybe not the benefit side. So I could see us doing two of these, but this really sets the bar for our largest budget as far as our ability to negotiate with these unions. So,
But I mean, we do have to keep employees, so we have to be.
oh, without a doubt, but we can always go up.
Mr. Baker.
Ms. Holte and Mr. Sadler, do you have a recommendation? You are professionals in this field.
Yeah, I mean, as far as mathematically, I mean, I agree. We've got to look at it because that is our competition. And I know it's been brought up on the state positions before. I mean, this isn't saying this is going to be the actual science. When they do these, you've got to look at what the market is and what the comparables are. I mean, I recommend the list that they have, and I don't have a problem. Lisa's looking at the state in lacrosse, understanding lacrosse and Wisconsin wages are lower. And again, it's a look at. That's not saying that's going to be the final.
Mr. Hoff.
Do you think it's advantageous to create two scopes?
Yeah, I think, I mean,
One
Well-
with and without those, so we can really compare how that affects.
I-
I would be all about that.
I would recommend that. Milena, I mean, you're the consultant, but that's what I would see. And for us to get this moving down, I think that if the motion on the floor is that we have two lists to look at, then so be it.
Holte, your recommendation? I'm sorry.
Were you, I don't want you to take the floor away from you, but Commissioner Ward does.
Well, I also asked Ms. Holte as well.
Yeah.
I would go with recommendation to do it with and without Olmsted. I think it's data that you can choose to do as you wish with it, but it's not gonna hurt anything to have both.
State of Minnesota lacrosse.
I'm gonna defer to Melina just because I don't do that as a profession. Most certainly, we have looked at Wisconsin government entities as part of negotiations. Namely because we have lost some folks to Wisconsin. Not a lot, but we have. So we did more recently in the last cycle look at those.
Thank you.
I will defer to Melina.
Mr. Ward.
Well, I would lean towards, yeah, the tier one, and to Ms. Church's concern. They are smaller counties, but we have to remember, we all have to do the same job. You know, the health, the human service, the public safety and everything. So the job is basically the same, no matter what county or government entity you work for. And to Commissioner Elsing's, you know, do we create that, you know, it's a great day to live in Winona County. Do we live in Southeast Minnesota, and do the bulk of our employees live in Southeast Minnesota because of Southeast Minnesota's lifestyle and its environment? And it's like Commissioner Elsing said, you can know who the people are. I don't know that you can quantify that, but I think now, Mr. Saddle, you're an exception. You came from outside. I mean, but our core workforce is probably already living in Southeast Minnesota and not, transient, like when you go to the metro area, everybody's moved in from somewhere to work there. So we have a difference, a uniqueness, but I don't know how you quantify that. But I would lean towards tier one and you're right. They are much smaller counties, but we all have to do the same job.
All I learned here today is he's except, what is he? He's the exception? Is that
Yeah,
right?
he came from outside. He's not
I've been
Southeast
told that
Minnesota.
before, you know.
So that's part two is because you're from.
Speaks a different language.
Okay.
That's a good.
Does anyone have any additional questions for the representative from McGrath? Commissioner Elsing?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendations on a two-tiered with Olmsted and state of Minnesota and La Crosse on one side and tier one without Olmsted in it. With that, I think
Wait,
that's
no,
kind of what
both
we lean
grades
to.
include the state and Wisconsin?
No,
No.
they would be segregated off.
Clarify for me then.
Tier one would just remove Olmsted, tier two would include Olmsted, state of Minnesota and La Crosse to see how the bigger
Okay.
outlying factors play into counties that are.
So one option is exactly as it's represented in our packet. And the second option removes Olmsted, adds the state of Minnesota and adds.
That my motion is to do the
La-
second.
Okay,
Yes. So we have two comparisons.
Okay.
I'll second that.
right?
Very useful information.
Okay, so Commissioner Elsing has made a motion. And Commissioner Ward has seconded it. And the way that I understand this motion, if we looked at page,
103.
yeah, of our packet, page 103 of our packet, we're gonna ask for McGrath to come back and present to us what they've listed here on the page as tier one, but then a second proposal, which excludes Olmsted, but includes the state of Minnesota and the city and La
Mm-mm.
Crosse County.
No.
No, okay, please, I misunderstood you, so go ahead.
Tier one would remove Olmsted and place it into a separate category along with the state.
Mhm.
So we would have the state and Olmsted, and we could have La Crosse in there too. That would compare to tier one. So
Okay, I'm sorry, so tier one excluding Olmsted.
correct.
I don't support that because I want to see tier one with Olmsted in there. So I probably wouldn't vote no on this motion.
You see where I'm going with Commissioner Olson?
I do, but as a 17-year union president, I know which list I'm gonna look at. So here's what I think. If you would have the two-tier list and then you want to say, well, we're gonna exclude state of Minnesota and La Crosse, but we still, now you're gonna look for another list. With Olmsted alone and those other two excluded. So I'm gonna stick with the recommendation just because I would know that if I was on the negotiating team, I would be watching this meeting and I'd have that list already. So I just know it's gonna muddy the waters if we start to exclude certain things on purpose. And I fully understand why you're saying it because I've fought to have that on a list as long as I've been a government employee, so.
Okay, Commissioner Elsing, and then you, Commissioner Bagley?
I guess in my mind, what I was trying to create was a low and a high. Here's probably a realistic of where we are, but due to the competition at the higher end, this is how it skews the numbers to the high end. It gives us a baseline and a high end of competition, and where do we fall in between? That's where I was trying to go with this. The median versus the average, and this really segregates that out and gives us a very good look at the high-end competition brought into the lower side as well as the low side, so we can find a happy medium. That's the point of this motion, is it gives us a better overview rather than the numbers skewed together.
Mr. Bagley, and then I'm gonna come back to you.
I hear what you're saying. Maybe instead of low end and high end, but there's a narrow focus and there's a wider focus.
Yes.
The wider
Yeah,
focus.
there's a good way to, yes.
This doesn't apply to all positions.
Yeah, and then we're somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
It is going to apply to all positions. Every single union position every union would need to accept the list.
I see what you're saying.
Question for Ms. Halverson. I know this is a difficult one and maybe you don't want to answer it. If you were a county commissioner, what would you ask for? I know you live in Wisconsin, but you work with both Wisconsin and Minnesota counties.
Leaves it right there.
Yes.
Gonna have new governors. Is that gonna play into it?
Oh, no comment about that. Okay, so All I can say is primaries are today. So yeah, this is a little bit difficult because I'm looking at it from a consultant's lens, and you know, I have no problem with Olmsted. I have no problem with the state of Minnesota, and I have no problem with La Crosse County. And in this part of the process, what we are asking is where are our parameters so that we can go out and start the market data collection? Because the market data collection is only going to tell us the one part of the story. When we're done with that market data collection and we've run that analysis and we can see how Winona County is looking against this data set, then the next question, and it becomes a very important policy question, is going to be back before the organization, and it is going to be where do you want to be in context of the market? Do you want to be average? And when I say do you want to be average, it's not that we're suggesting that your employees are average. What we're saying is, where do you want to position your compensation philosophy? And most organizations want to try to be to the average because they can't be the top payer, but they don't want to be the low payer either. So they want to try to be somewhere in the middle. But the outcomes of the market study will help you make some more strategic decisions about, do you have to lag the market? Can you be higher in the market? And I'm going to use an example. I studied in Wisconsin, a border county. And what we did was we had a very core set of comparables, and then we included more regional, which included the state of Minnesota. And once we had both of those data sets, what we could identify is if we were to stick with the core Wisconsin comparables, they can be positioned at the 75th percentile of their Wisconsin comparator. And if we were to include the Minnesota influence, that would have been equivalent to their 75th in Wisconsin, would have been the 50th overall between Wisconsin and Minnesota. So for me, I would be saying, get me the data that is going to help us make more of these bigger picture strategic decisions about where we go after the next step. And so I would say, and I understand, and I was kind of expecting that Olmsted would be the conversation. If you were to remove Olmsted out of tier 1 and we study it without Olmsted, tier 2 then is everyone in tier 1 plus Olmsted. And if you want to put in the state of Minnesota and La Crosse County, okay. That way you know in totality what it looks like.
We
Yeah,
did
I think it'd be great data.
in this conversation to not say this is the final list, but to say these are the counties we want data collected on. And then once we have it, we can slice and dice it into more than 2.
So that would not be where I would recommend that we go with this, because what ends up happening is that there's a feeling of cherry picking that happens, which is why we want to have the conversation at the onset. And no matter what the data outcomes are, is what the data outcomes are. The conversation then turns, because the data doesn't change. The conversation turns to philosophically and strategically, where does the county want to position itself, or where can you afford to position yourself?
So the concern that I've heard from Commissioner Elsing is that certain counties or the state of Minnesota will skew the data. We don't know that in advance.
I don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that. So I can't recommend a list without knowing some of that information in advance. I'm advocating that we have a list of counties, we get the data, and then we see Olmsted in or out. We see state of Minnesota in or out. We see Wisconsin in or out. And then we figure out where that puts us. But the motion, the way it's presented, I simply can't support because it doesn't provide me with enough options.
I got a comment.
I don't think that the idea of finding the lowest and finding the highest works, because we're not later going to be able to change the number of counties or the counties that are included.
I'm good.
No, because the data is already collected and we've already made that decision right now. Commissioner Elsing.
The reason why Commissioner Ward asked for that county. The reason why I looked at Olmsted, the reason why we looked at potentially La Crosse, that was brought up by our legal team, is in itself the very reason to segregate, because that's where we tend to lose to, and there's a reason why we're losing to them. So that in itself is as evidence to say, these are the counties we have the biggest issue with, but they also have a significantly higher budget, population rate, whatever it is, which is why we're looking to segregate. That is the evidence in itself why you would segregate those out, because that is who we're losing the majority of people to, as stated by the group. So that's why that is the evidence that they have an advantage over us, which is why I would like to segregate that out and see how big that actually is, so we know how to position ourselves against it. You
But
put
we're-
it in the pool of pot, it becomes a law of averages.
We're not going to be making that decision later. We're making that decision today without having the information.
What I'm saying is the information that we have is the very thing why we would want to do that, is because that's who we're losing.
Guessing we don't know. And I'd say, don't make the decision until you know.
We've made it clear that's who we're losing our people to. We've made mention of that. We're losing them to the state. We lose them to Olmsted. We lose them to La Crosse. So that is what this is about, is understanding why and how big of an influence over the base rate does that have. I really don't know how to make it any simpler than that.
Yeah, I mean, my preference would be to see it Olmsted in, Olmsted out.
Well, I think
That's what
I
we're
think
doing.
they can come up
No.
with two separate lists and it can easily be blended together.
That's
in-
not,
in
that's
there.
what I asked for. And she said, no, don't do that because you would be cherry picking.
Oh, well, you can. I
Well,
mean, you can do
Ma-
it on
ma'am,
your
you know,
own too.
The list to the right would have everybody in it. The list to the left, I would call tier one, would have everything but Olmsted. Tier two would have all the counties plus how those three influence the rest of the skew. That's what I'm asking for. So the list on the left, or tier one, we would take Olmsted out. Tier two would have everybody in it, including the state of Minnesota, Olmsted, and La Crosse.
But you're asking to be able to see those three in or out. Right?
It would be those three added to our original list to see how that skews.
Sure. And if
The
you don't
list.
like how it skews the list, you want to be able to take one or two out?
No, it was just a
This
comprehensive
is why I
list
don't
of all
support this.
three.
No, this is why I don't. It's not just all three, it's tier one plus the three.
Correct, added to tier one, saying these are the higher powers that we tend to lose people to the most. I doubt we lose too many people to Houston. I doubt we lose too many people to Rice. But we know we lose a lot of people to Olmsted in the state of Minnesota especially. That's why I'm saying, how big of a factor does that play into the list? It gives us a high and a low.
Chris Ross.
I would want to know.
So
Why
Just
isn't it the $1 million?
from personal experience in the department I used to work for, we lost so much institutional knowledge from a fellow inspector to the state of Minnesota and a fellow inspector to Olmsted County. Matter of fact, the department has never been the same. So as a fellow coworker of those two gentlemen and a taxpayer in the city, I see a great loss of the knowledge base that we had and the skill base that we had. Because of a wage and they both stayed they stayed here and they commuted. So, you know, we didn't lose them as fellow citizens in our community, but we lost them as employees and coworkers, and it had a huge impact on the department that I worked in. So I'm not going to support the motion because I've fought for that for years. So,
But this would give us that information, of what it would take to keep them. Maybe I'm
You know, I think,
explaining it wrong.
look at the charts they provide us, page 107 and 108. And I know there was some discrepancy. Are we cherry picking and we got the neighbors who are lower? But look at that line, budget per capita. And that to me is telling. You're trying to say if somebody's, you know, overpaying or anything. I mean, we're all really, that line doesn't change a lot, which is surprising. Even the Olmsted is that figure is budget per capita 2,450 and ours is 2,000. So I mean, to me, that's not huge when you talk about budgets. That's a telling figure right there of comparison Of course, I don't know if we could get the comparison on the state of Minnesota or whatever, but there's a lot of data right there that they've already contributed to that would help clarify size and description of our list.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, Commissioner Elsing has moved, Commissioner Ward has seconded, requesting 2 lists. The first list would be tier 1 as represented in our packet, but excluding Olmsted County. The second list would be everything represented on tier 1 on page 103 of our packet, plus the state of Minnesota, plus La Crosse, and including Olmsted County. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, motion carries.
It's not forever. This is for every couple of years, right? So they can review this.
No,
The county doesn't do these count studies very often.
No.
no, it's been a decade or more.
Relate that or whatever.
Right.
The last one I think was 15 years ago. but
Oh.
General,
It's still,
general business HR should be every 5, but again, it's been 15 or more.
Do we want,
that's what I read.
do we want a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
the next item on the agenda is going to be the interim use permit for Aaron and Erica Benz.
Ross, we're gonna take
We're gonna take a break.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
This is gonna give us some.
Tell you, I had a visiting.
109. It is to discuss, it's 7.3, discuss or and potentially approve an interim use permit for Aaron and Erica Benson. I understand that staff has given us a choice of presentation, short or long, and Commissioner Bagley wanted the short one.
Starters.
But,
What's the question?
but the rest of us can weigh in.
Yeah, so Lou Overhug is here, able to give you a shorter extended presentation that was provided to Planning Commission to give you an overview of the situation. Mr. Nia Schaefer is present for Chariots for Hope to be available for your questions, as is Mr. Kranz. So I will have him come up and he can give you an overview. Heidi, if you could bring up the presentation, please.
Good morning.
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 So we'll run through a couple of slides here. I don't need to go through all of them, but we do have a bunch of photos that if you're interested, we can look through as well as a series of maps. But I'll keep it kind of the abbreviated version, and if you have questions, we can, I can share some more. Heidi, you want to go ahead and advance the slide? This is for a conditional use, actually an interim use permit. So it's just for a 1-day event. It's a little bit different than a lot of our applications. So in that regard, but it is for, it's going to be held in an old quarry that hasn't been used anymore down in Dresbach Township. You can see the location there. The green line going towards Riverview Drive is Oak Hill Road, which is a minimum maintenance township road. It is in decent shape for those types of roads. And then there's also County Road 1, which will be the primary access. And it's at the top of the bluff, not at the bottom of the valley. Next slide. The event itself is being held by Chariots for Hope, which is a nonprofit organization based out of La Crosse. They support and provide safe, reliable vehicles to neighbors working towards city jobs, medical care, and everyday essentials, essentially providing transportation to people in need. Primarily in the La Crosse area, but also up here in Winona a bit. And Nice can talk a little bit more about their service area, but it does catch Winona as well, to give you an idea. The event itself is called Quarry Jump for a Cause. Again, a charitable fundraising event. It's going to feature cars that they take donations of cars, and then they rehab them and use them for their transportation service. They also have cars that aren't being used and that they have to get rid of. So they're gonna use some of those cars to put on this event by putting them over the edge of the quarry wall, entertainment event, and then they're going to sell tickets to do that for people to come.
Let's say it's cool.
Yeah.
Jump them suckers off.
Yeah, they do. They run them off of there. There are other events that it's kind of modeled on. If you go online, you can see there's a very famous one in Alaska. It won't be necessarily like that. Be much more controlled than that version, but that type of idea.
And there's no one named Thelma or Louise. That's the best part. I would pay to book me an award in one of these. With a helmet,
All right, Heidi, next slide. Moving on. Thank you. No.
There's no happy ending when they.
Go ahead, advance it one more time.
Yeah, I'm out of town that weekend. I'm not in town that weekend.
So there are a number of issues that have come up in relation to the event. Number one was traffic and parking. The plan had originally started with shuttling people in, kind of like Family Night on the Farm, how they would do that. They went away from that, and it ended up that they were going to use street parking, which there were concerns about. And based on those concerns, they looked at their numbers and what they were expecting, and ended up moving it all into the quarry itself. So all the parking will be provided on site within the quarry. And here you can see the parking plan showing the areas of parking, the main access road in orange, and a turnaround at the end, providing a 75-foot radius for turning around and going out for traffic flow. Next slide. This is a site plan showing the quarry and the kind of the operation areas. We have the yellow area will be limited access to the public. The dark or the brighter yellow area is absolutely no-go for anybody. And then you see the black, or I guess they're more coming up as brown within this picture, showing barriers. The cars would come down off of the top and land in the area to the south and west of the blue and black barriers there. So there is a detailed plans for how those areas would be sectioned off. There will be volunteers kind of patrolling some of those areas and providing safety to the public.
How high are the barriers?
That's a good question. I think there are some 3-foot Jersey barriers. And then there might be some fencing. Nias can talk more detailed to those questions. So next slide. Here's a oblique view just showing the quarry wall and the immediate area where the event will take place. Additional parking will be off to the left there as the quarry advances to that area, extends that way. Next slide. And then here are some of the service areas, staging area in green, and where the actual cars will come over the edge of the quarry wall. The yellow is parking. Blue square is kind of entrance. And then there'll be some services, food and beverage and whatnot in the red square. And then first aid in the blue square. So give you an idea of how they're laying out the site for the event. Next slide. Let's see what's important here. Again, 10 to 5 o'clock, one-day event on the 23rd of August. The applicant has submitted provisions for public safety, emergency services, traffic management, and the like. And we have had a review by the sheriffs and highway department. Coming out of the planning commission meeting, they did recommend approval with 5 conditions. Staff had recommended 4, they added 1. There was another one that was talked about regarding an indemnification agreement that if you have questions, it's a legal agreement, but Steve could answer some questions regarding that if you're interested. There were a number of things that were, that hadn't really been decided upon by the applicant as well. One being, how they were actually going to launch the cars over the quarry wall. The state has a checklist for essentially, breaking down into, motor vehicles and how they dispose of those. And fuel had to be taken completely out of the vehicle before this, the event. So that originally they were going to leave a little bit of fuel in the car in order to propel it over the edge. It sounds like that was going to have to be completely removed, and there is a state checklist for that. It should also be mentioned, though, that there are a number of businesses donating their time and expertise to this event. One of them is a salvage yard who is in charge of removing all the hazardous materials from the vehicles and then disposing of the vehicles and collecting them afterwards. So that was one question, though, was how were they going to propel the vehicles over the edge? We were also, one of the conditions is for insurance, and we wanted documentation that the county has been added. It's my understanding that we have been added to that policy as a insured, but we haven't had proof of that documentation yet. Otherwise, I don't have anything else as far as that was coming from the Planning Commission meeting. Like I said, they are recommending approval, and there are findings of fact attached in your packet that would support that decision.
Mr. Olson?
I make a motion to approve the interim use permit for Aaron and Erica Benson as written.
I'll second it, just to get on the table for discussion.
Sure. Okay, so I have some questions, right, like potentially for you, but maybe for Mr. Krantz. So the discussion at the Planning Commission was about $1 million insurance policy, and I want to know, how important do you think the whole indemnification, is it necessary or not? There was concern that the county might in some way be liable, and I thought your presentation at the Planning Commission was actually very helpful, just in terms of talking about how this is it's not like this is a concert. We've never seen an event like this before, so it makes it difficult for us.
Yes, so one of the things, as a lawyer, that we do is help clients manage risk. And so this is a case where there's no right or wrong answer. You should do it, you should do this, or you shouldn't do it. There's just a range of risk involved with it. And a lot of that is where the legal things come in, the potential liability, and just the general health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the county. For answer your question and put it in context, the main thing that caught my attention about this event is the difference between 499 attendees and 500 attendees in terms of how much oversight the county requires and provides. There's a significant example. If it were one person more attending, there would be required 13 comprehensive plans dealing with safety issues and environmental issues and any number of things that could happen in a mass gathering. And our mass gathering ordinance isn't geared towards the type of event. It's geared solely to the number of people. And this is an event where, and it could be with any event, there's a lot of unusual issues with it that we don't necessarily know the implications or the risk of the event like we would know with the concert or something like that. And that's why, to answer your question, I think it's important that there's the liability insurance names the county as an insured, and that the county makes sure at a minimum that it protects itself against the range of things that could possibly happen when you launch 10 vehicles into a confined space with 499 people in it. Just to give you an idea of, so if this were a mass gathering event, 90 days before the event was to occur, there'd have to be a meeting that included the county environmental services director, county sheriff, county planning director, county highway engineer, county administrator of community health, county soil and water conservation district, Winona County auditor, fire inspector, and first responders of the affected township, township officer of the affected township, Minnesota Department of Natural Services Resources. And that would have to take place with the applicant before they apply, just so that you get all the people who have the knowledge in the county to assess the risks in the event and what needs to be done. And this event is being given to us. I mean, if it's not approved at this meeting, it can't happen because it's in a very short time frame. So there's very little opportunity to review it, nor is there required review under our ordinance. There are some conditions which are helpful that were referenced. And then the other part of this, in terms of I guess it's more health, safety, and welfare. There's a lot of potential oversight and permits that would be required that do not fall within the county, yet the event will take place in the county. And we're dealing with the zoning and the large assemblies license if it applies, erosion, land disturbances, environmental review. The state would be dealing with pollution control, vehicle fluids, vehicle prep, vehicle disposal. The Attorney General would be dealing with whether it was a licensed, registered nonprofit to collect from residents of Minnesota. They're not going to have liquor, as I understand, so they wouldn't need a liquor license, but they're going to have food vendors, so they'll need a food vendor license. And if there's any raffle or anything like that, they'd need to gambling approval. Other state fire marshal, Department of Revenue, licensed engineer, township. And if the bottom of the quarry were damp, then we would bring in the federal government and the EPA and all of that. None of those people are going to know this event is happening, basically. And so one way to deal with that is to just identify all those that are needed and require the applicant to bring in certified proof that those things have those approvals before the event. Another would be to have them fund a county employee to be at the event who would have the authority to stop the event at any time if the attendance exceeds 499, or if, in their sole opinion, they determine it's become unsafe. And so, again, all that being said, they're not here asking for a mass gathering permit. The committees have reviewed this and they feel what has been provided is sufficient. There's still some issues that are unknown, in particular, how the vehicles are going to be launched safely off the quarry edge, which is kind of an engineering problem, which I don't know if that's within our purview or we have people to do that, but that would be another whole other issue. How far does a crowd need to be away from a car as it falls off a quarry and hits the ground? Does it bounce? Does it roll? Does it explode? Nobody knows.
Safer to put a gallon of gas in them and send them over the edge.
Yeah. So that's just in my presentation, that's what I wanted to make the decision makers aware of, that range from very little oversight to a lot of oversight. A key element is complaints in terms of land use issues in the county are complaint-based. So really, if somebody were complaining about something going on there, it would not be dealt with till after the event. So in other words, there would be no capacity to come in and deal with it or prevent it or anything like that.
Mr. Ward, you have a question?
Yeah, a question. You've triggered a question. Who picked the 499? Did staff tell them stay under 499, or did the event organizer come in and say, I'm staying under 499?
So staff could answer that question, but I did want to address that issue generally. our ordinance does not say who gets to decide whether it's $4.99 or not. We could say, okay, you're saying it's under $4.99. You have to have controls in place to make sure it stays under that. It could be wristbands, numbered tickets, things like that. But also, you know, in researching this issue, I think that whether or not the event is going to have 499 people or 500 people is a fact that could be determined by the body evaluating the application. So I think it's a finding that you would have the authority to make, to say, if it were supported by facts, we're going to treat this like it is going to have 500 people because based on these factors, we've determined that it's very likely to have more than 500 people.
Although they did guarantee that they would not sell more than 400.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But was staff pressured to go 499? Was there any influencing factor on that number?
Well,
Did we recommend something as staff or?
No, we don't recommend. We provide the information from the ordinance and what our thresholds are and, you know, what the ordinance says, and then the applicant makes an application based on that information. So I think that they don't, it's their first event. I don't think they really knew at the beginning how many people would come. And the more that they've had social media presence and heard back from the public, and then through the planning commission and meetings with staff, they were comfortable with the 400 number. That kind of came later after their initial application. And I think, talking to the applicant, the representative from Cherries for Hope, they would be very excited to get 400 people at their inaugural event. And they do have a online ticketing system that they're using, Zephy, I think it's called, that's only allowing them then to sell 400 tickets. Now, how they deal with people who just show up at their door and want to go to this event, if they, you know, it's just wildly successful and public interest and people want to show up. That's a good question. I know they will have volunteers and some traffic people managing traffic and things like that. So that's how they're stating it and what they're representing at this point.
Two questions that I have that kind of still are outstanding after watching the meeting, because I watched the planning commission meeting and I don't know what I'm going to do. I still don't know what I'm going to do. But I'm interested, Mr. Schaefer, you're here. So the question is, could staff answer the question? So when, how big is the area where the car falls? How far back do we anticipate that the crowd will be? And what is the height of the barriers?
Yeah, we can ask Nias that, but yeah, it is on the map. So if you just scaled it out, I don't think they've actually provided like
numbers,
the measurements. But,
and if you have additional questions for Mr. Schaefer.
I just wanted to make a comment that this is actually, I guess, in the rest of the world, a common thing. And it's all, you can go on YouTube and watch this all day long. It happens a lot. This has actually been done many, many, many times. And there's some really big versions of this that, I mean, it's a 2-3 day type of event. So the people that are involved and typically know what this is have scaled out. They understand. They've talked to people that have done it before. And so they're not inventing the wheel. They're just bringing the wheel to our county. So this has been done for many, many years. So, yep.
I would just note that we don't know what kind of oversight those events are under. I agree that it's been done safely in lots of occasions and happens all the time, but we just don't know what kind of oversight those events have.
Yeah, Mr. Schaefer, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for hearing our petition here for a conditional use permit. It's going to be a fun event. Unfortunately and fortunately, the safety parameters are going to be extremely stringent. We have an area of 80 by 80 feet that are set up with 4-foot barriers plus guardrails, plus another 20-foot no entry zone. Unfortunately,
So that, just to clarify, so it's 80 by 80 and then there's barriers and then 20 feet back from the barrier
Yes.
is where individuals
Yes.
will stand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the original intent was to leave some gasoline in these cars and transmission fluid and get them going as fast as we can and fly them off the edge of the bluff because that's more fun, right? It just is. And for public interest and, our goal is to expand the amount of people that know about our organization who are 100% here to support the community and those that are in need of transportation. And we want to see a different kind of group understand that need and support our organization. It's going to be awesome. The safety part of the event, going back to that, if we keep with our original 80 by 80 plus barriers, plus guardrail, plus a safety zone, would be adequate if we were launching those vehicles off the quarry at 20 or 30 miles an hour, which in this quarry situation, if we got to 15 miles an hour, that'd be great. After consulting with our company that is going to be helping with the launch itself, and within those parameters of keeping Minnesota EPA happy, no fluids in the vehicle, no batteries and whatnot, we've decided not to start the vehicles at the top at all. They won't have any fluids in them. We are going to drop them off with a giant forklift lull. And that will allow us also to get another 20 feet back from the quarry wall for any potential erosion control problems, which there was an on-site assessment on two Tuesdays ago with our launch team. And so the vehicles aren't going to be launching over the quarry wall. They are going to be dropped from it, which will allow them just to smash into place and be it. I know isn't it disappointing? It's a little disappointing. So in regards to the EPA standards, we obviously we don't have somebody from the county here overseeing any of these operations, and we're not required to if we stay under 499. I believe the 499 was put in there as that was a cap from what the application had said, so that was on there. We have no intention of going over 400 people. We have some controls in place with that. We are requiring everyone to be ticketed online. So even people that are showing up at the event, they're going to have to scan a QR code. We're not going to be allowed to sell over 400 tickets. In addition to that, we have ordered printable and number sequenced wristbands, and we're going to have 400 on site. And if somebody wants to get in and there is not a 400th ticket, they won't be able to. We're hoping to use this also to make us a kind of exclusive event, and we want it to be super well attended so we can let people know what we're up to. You guys mentioned insurance before. We have two separate insurance policies that we have quoted. We did not want to pull the trigger on them until we have a positive, yes, we can do this event. So we have Winona County as an insured on both of those policies. In case one would fall through, we were kind of double caught. It's $1 million policy as recommended. The other concern was neighbors. We had one neighbor during our comments at the planning meeting saying, we don't want people in our driveway, which I totally understand. There's a reason that we did this event on a Sunday at 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. by the time people get out of there, 3 p.m. And that's because we want it to be a low-key family style event where we're going to have no alcohol. It's going to be pretty mellow outcome and just a nice event. So we are going to put up no trespassing signs with anybody on Oak Hill Road that has access to that, just to ensure, can ensure it, but to deter people from accessing private property. There should be no excessive noise that comes from this. There's nobody that lives within a quarter mile essentially of the bottom of the quarry, where I think most of the sound will take place too. There's no on-site water, so the EPA and erosion control, we aren't changing any of the structure of the land. We've pulled through this and had a really great plan coming in. I do want to say the planning commission brought up some really awesome questions that we definitely will follow right along with in terms of the things that we just talked about with insurance policies with Winona County, the vehicle prep being to the standard of the EPA of Minnesota and the neighbors.
Is it EPA that said no fuel?
Uh,
Or is it
whatever
planning
the
board?
MPCA, yeah.
They said no fuel?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun with tannerite.
Yep.
Upset. All right.
We'll move on.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not questions, but of course, being on the planning commission. Life is all about timing, and I want to give staff the go ahead to sometimes say no. You're very late in the process. You were late in the process. We have a process so many days, and everything has to be done. But it's been advertised for some time. So again, the timing of all this activity, in my opinion, when you put something out on Facebook and everything, you've already got all your ducks in a row, and the ducks weren't in row, but you've already been promoting it. So you're really kind of putting us in a bad situation. Boy, if we deny it, then everybody gets a little egg on their face because you promoted it and then it ain't going to happen. I don't know that that's the case, but I want to give staff the permission to say, no, you have not met our timeline. I know staff jumped through a lot of hoops to try and get this to the planning commission and then to us. And with incomplete applications, this whole thing about insurance, we were still talking about it to planning commission. We didn't know if we had insurance. And again, if we're supposed to be in charge of health, safety, and general welfare, what is the liability we're putting regular tax-paying citizens? Now, the township said, okay, and the plans did change. They were going to park up on County Road 1, which is not adequate for parking. Just so you realize, is it Oak Hill Road? It's a minimum maintenance township road, but the township did approve it, which again, they didn't reach out to myself or anybody to ask. They approved it. The planning commission did approve it, not unanimously, but they did approve it. There's just a lot here that is happening. Will we learn from our mistakes or our lack of prudence? I hope not. It's a charity, but I don't know, how much do you think you're going to net from this thing? You're going to a lot of expense with guardrails and barriers and hopefully, like you said, there are a lot of volunteers and good volunteers. I did ask, that area is serviced from an emergency or medical is volunteer, the Nodine, the Dakota. If they have to have any active part in this event, that this group would give them a donation to cover their costs of materials and things like that. Heaven forbid anybody that lives in the neighborhood has a medical emergency at that time. We hope not, but it could cause problems. It's just, this is a tough one. If you were coming in asking me for permission for next year, I'd feel a whole lot better. But you came in and asked me for permission within a matter of a month, I think it was. Timeline seemed very short. And so it's a tough one. It's not. And also one of the things I would ask staff, and nothing personal or the organization, but these are supposed to be with the landowner, these permits with the landowner, not Chariots of Hope. Is it Chariots of Hope? This is supposed to be with the Aaron and Erica Benson. And I'm sorry, we heard very little from them. Are they aware of, I don't even know if they're aware. We do the same thing when we get into like solar applications. We end up working with the developer and the landowner is like, huh? Are they really knowing what they're signing up for and everything? And again, I would ask planning staff that yes, the promoter, the developer is important, but I don't know if we engage the landowner enough to really know it's in their name. It's not in Chariot of Hope name when we talk on land use. So those are some of my I do have some angst about the whole project.
Mr. Elson?
I would assume that Aaron and Eric have asked you all the pertinent questions that to cover their bases.
Yes, and they signed off on the planning,
And spoke
on the
with
plan and planning commission and
That's what I
Aaron-
assumed, yeah.
and Aaron commented at the planning commission as well.
So my thinking on this, I'm gonna go back to the whole 80 feet. Okay, 80 feet plus 20 feet. So the average car is 15, 16 feet long. And I think what you're portraying to us, there's still gonna be some forward momentum, is that it falls out and it just goes down flat. But I'm thinking, no, if there's forward momentum, even in Thelma and Louise, the car ends up going like this and then flipping potentially, right? So let's say it's gonna fall some distance from the base of the bluff and then potentially flip over, and that maybe doubles the length of how far it goes. And then there's a 20-foot distance past the 80 feet. I'm not sure if that's sufficient. I mean, I get that that's what you envisioned to happen, but I'm not sure that that's how it will go. And that, I guess, is one of the concerns that as Attorney Krantz talks, that if that barrier that, like, if that 500 person limit was met, there's a whole bunch of state agencies that then get involved that have expertise that isn't involved. This is probably my biggest concern in terms of when Commissioner Ward talks about health and safety. So I still do have it as a concern. Maybe there's something you can share to change my mind, but.
Sure.
Just a clarification, much of the state oversight happens regardless, or is required regardless. We just don't know if it's being done or not, and have no way of knowing that unless we require evidence from them.
Okay.
Sure. And just on the physics of that, we're actually, the vehicles will be over the top of the bluff being dumped off. So they're going to be going straight down.
Straight down like this or straight down like that?
Well, hopefully there's some like.
So you
eh,
have some
there's
sort of a mechanism of
Yeah,
bringing it out on like
yeah.
a ramp or something?
Yes, yeah.
But is it a
We're gonna
Ute
gently set them.
or is it a Cadillac, you know?
Well, we
Size,
we know
size.
Well,
semi.
If it is
That was asked.
if it is a 15-foot vehicle and it falls straight down and it rolls twice, we're still 20 feet away from the barriers.
Physics, there is a lot
Yeah,
of
there's
physics
physics in
involved.
that. Yes, there's physics in that.
Okay, are there other folks that have questions or would like to share some thoughts with us before we go ahead and vote?
Well,
Commissioner Ward?
okay, so you're advertising it as a first annual.
Yep.
So you're gonna be back, you think?
Well, maybe.
I
We'll
mean,
see.
But I don't know if you're gonna make enough, if you're gonna make enough money for all your, I don't
Yeah.
know how much your expenses are. You
Yeah.
know, $20 a person and then you're charging some for parking and stuff.
The point of this event, it is a fundraiser and I'm hoping to raise some funds. But our goal is to have people understand who we are and who we serve. And that's if we break even and we get 1,000 extra people understanding, including this board and the individual people that are on it, to understand that our mission is to help people with transportation. That's good enough. So, yeah.
I'm going, just comment. I'm gonna vote in favor of it, and I wish that there was at least a gallon of gasoline. So that might be at least a gallon.
At least.
That might be a state legislature issue. The fireball would definitely add.
That look, Grace. I mean,
I was
if the
raised,
evidence
I was
burns
a
up.
farm boy. I'm raised. You need some-
Yeah, I've done wild and crazy things in my days, but never this. I guess I'm older now and I'm more cautious.
If it's the first one ever, this would be different. And I realize it's your first time, but this is an event.
100 feet is a long ways. 100 feet is clear up to that.
It's a long way. It's a long.
This room's a
30
long.
minutes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a long ways.
One of my concerns is the cleanup after, and you say you're gonna have somebody clean up, but now, and there was the suggestion, because we have conditions and we can add. It does say number 4, upon completion of activities, a final inspection will be scheduled with planning and environmental services to go over it. So, that's time, energy and effort, additional to, planning staff, which we're short-staffed, currently. Who is going to do are you going to pick up all the pieces of tail light and bumpers and everything that come off? I mean, at what level of scrutiny are you cleaning up?
All of it.
All of it?
Yep. We have one of our sponsors is Bobcat at Cooley Region. We're hoping to get just a general sweeper that is an attachment on there. So it's going to be cleaner than when it started. There's a lot of debris in there from all the years of everybody doing everything in there.
Well,
I think
yeah,
I've met 'em.
quarries tend to
I-
be.
I think I,
Gas, it just burn away.
yeah.
Commissioner-
So, yep.
Did you? No, okay. All right, so I think the thing is, if the board intends to deny, we are going to have to change the findings of fact to support that.
Question for legal. How many days ahead of time do we need to see these insurance policies? Because the 23rd is just in, 12 days or whatever.
Yeah, that would be entirely dependent on the
decision
condition
today.
because there are requirements under the mass gathering ordinance, but that doesn't apply to this, so.
Can we mandate that we have a hard copy in our
Sure.
hand prior to the?
Yes, you could make those, that condition, yeah.
Okay.
When,
So currently the conditions do say proof of general liability with a baseline minimum coverage of 100,000 per occurrence that names Winona County as an additional insured under the party.
Right.
And it will be provided to planning and environmental prior to the event. So
I want to make that sure
that
because
is
in the planning, it was a quote and it had the wrong address and a number of things like that. So I mean, it needs to be very, very specific.
okay. Are we ready to vote or yes?
I just want to say one more thing, one more killjoy lawyer statement. I before I came here, for years, I advised private, small and medium-sized businesses. And in any case where if I had a client who was accepting responsibility for an event and potentially liable, that client would want to know the credentials and experience of the people who were doing the engineering. So like we've told, there's a great team that's doing it and they've done a pre-launch, whatever, but we have no indication of what credentials or if they're sufficient, if the engineering is sufficient or anything like that. And having said that, I will.
Well, okay, now if we decided that was something we wanted to do, could we ask for one test launch and video evidence to show that it stayed within the barriers?
You certainly could. I mean, the conditions are pretty open in terms of,
So this is something we could add as a condition.
yeah, the compared to what would be required if it were a mass gathering, the conditions you add are going to be very nominal compared to what they would be.
If I can make comment just on, if you would like me to.
Yeah.
So we are having, one of our major sponsors is Carrier Industrial Services. They are a multi-state industrial company that does everything from grain elevators much higher than 60-foot quarries to industrial factories, breweries, and everything else. This is their business. They are trucking in guardrails and giant barriers as well as the machinery to launch this. So I don't have a statement from them and they don't have experience dropping a vehicle off of a bluff, but they have experience lifting heavy things and putting them where they're supposed to be. So I'll just give you that as some reassurance. Yeah, reassurance on the activity of the company helping us out.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds like a good time.
Okay, so are there further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of, well, let's see. Commissioner Elsing has made this motion. Commissioner Vigley has seconded it. And I'm just going to confirm that it is to approve the recommendation made by the Planning Commission with all of the findings, effects, and the conditions and no additional conditions. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, Commissioner Meyer, you indicated, the geometry, the physics of all this, do you want something from this Carrier? You said Carrier? Carrier. But again, of course, he said they don't have experience of this.
Yeah.
And again, it's this whole timeline. I mean, if we had another, amount of time to get this information.
So I would think the same way in that we're saying that we have to have proof about the insurance. You could say, I want a video proof of a test drop using the exact whatever equipment that they're going to do when they drop it. If you made such a motion, I'd just tell you, I would second it as a potential amendment to
I don't know if we can get it. If we can't get it from them, then that kind of
the amount of cost it would take to get it all out there, get the equipment, get the thing. I mean,
Yeah, and timing, I don't think they
that would
can
make it, that would
realistic.
put a heavy damper on all this. And the reality of it is you can probably drop that car, you know, that's the given point to have such a large area, which is, think about it, the area in which the car could land is almost twice as big as the area they're dropping it from. So I mean, we could put physics into this and actually do the calculations, right?
I think that's what
And
Commissioner Ward's proposing, yeah.
but the reality of it is that I can tell you right now, it's not gonna come out in the favor that says it's going to bounce outside of this zone. So those are classes that I aced. To ask me what an adverb is, I have no idea. So, and that's true.
I do have
So-
a question, and we can leave the physics and yeah, hopefully it'll just plop. The liability though, for the Chariots of Hope, when a person buys a ticket, are they signing off their liability that they can't sue you? I mean, liability is a big thing. Anytime you do an event, even if you have a family picnic, if somebody gets hurt, they're gonna sue the homeowner. So is there a waiver in your ticketing process that they release you from all liability? Which a good lawyer will fight anyway, but I mean.
Ticketing and volunteering all have liability waivers.
Okay, that's on, if I went online and tried to buy a ticket, I would see that. And I have to check.
You're gonna be out of town?
I'm gonna be out of town. I'm not, my grandson has a birthday that day and I got grandma duty.
Yeah, you would sign the waiver, or else you can't.
I just make one more comment.
Okay.
Commissioner Elsing.
I can appreciate the need for public safety. I'm gonna put this into perspective. I race cars and I throw them on a dirt track at 80 miles an hour with 6 other cars around me. I sign a waiver every time. Everybody that goes in the pit signs a waiver. Tell me the last time anybody,
You read it.
anything ever happened in any racing event ever, let alone 80 miles an hour, and I can hit a wall and I don't move more than per away at 80 miles an hour. So, I mean, when we begin to look at theoretically, we can appreciate some of the concerns, but we can regulate our way right into just sitting on our couch and not doing anything because we're scared to get up. We might trip and fall on the rug. So at the end of the day, I mean, this thing is, I'm not saying something couldn't happen. I'm just saying the likelihood of it is very, very minimal. I'm honestly surprised about the gas side of it, but that's why I asked the question, is this EPA or did we do this? Because if we did this, I'd support his motion. Which is why I asked the question. So I think we can regulate ourselves all the way down to a really boring, non-existent life. But virtually every safeguard that I see in semi-professional racing, which I attend, which is a national thing, there's more to this safe than what I do on a weekly basis and how close the spectators get when I'm racing, because they get as far as you and me away. And I'm doing 80 miles an hour throwing a car in a left-hand turn. So, and there ain't nothing more than a little chain wire fence between them and me. So at the end of the day, I just don't see it. You know, yes, anything could happen. For all we know, the quarry could blow up while everybody's standing there, but I highly doubt that's going to happen.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving this interim use permit with the existing findings of facts and conditions that came from the planning commission, and please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries.
I will warn you though, if this is gonna be an annual, there will be high scrutiny because I don't want my neighbors complaining. And I don't want any damage to the
And-
roads and the safety factor. So if it is gonna be an annual, get your act together a little earlier and come back and see us.
You make it a 2-day event so we get some tourism and
Yeah.
overnight stays and restaurants.
You're making Marcia cry.
Yeah.
You're get the finger wag too from.
Yeah. I just don't like the timeline and what staff were forced to.
Yeah, I want to thank staff for all the time that was put in.
Yes, huge. Thank you, staff, for that. Awesome.
Thank you and good luck with it.
Yeah, I hope it goes well.
Okay,
Get some Winnebagos.
Yeah.
all right, hope.
There's no camping down there.
We'll
It's
move
a
her back
valley
20 feet.
with a one-way road.
All right, hopefully we can move faster on some of these other items. Discuss and item 7.4, discuss and appoint 2 county board members to serve on the election canvas board, which is meeting on Thursday, the 13th. So 2 days from today at, I think
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. I would be willing to do it.
Normally I would, but I'll be out of town.
Same.
I have MCIT that afternoon
I
and
can,
Friday.
Okay, we need a second commissioner to do it.
Can I do it
No,
remote?
next
No. Can I do it remotely?
I'm in Nebraska, so
No.
I'm not even close.
I'll be up in northern.
Has to be in person.
Also, I'll just note that because Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Bagley and I will be on the November ballot, you guys will have to do it.
Yeah.
So please keep that in mind.
Fine.
Does it have to be a county board or can it be a designated? Can we designate somebody to do it?
As in the RFBA, it should include 2 members of the county board selected from its members who are not candidates for the election.
We could possibly, that's a good question, Commissioner Ward. We could theoretically designate someone.
And if we fail to designate a second person, what happens? Does does it not get certified? Who would be available if it got changed from Thursday to Friday?
No, I got MCIT.
We're gone all week, so
We'll be gone until the 22nd.
yeah.
So there's only going to be 1 commissioner available.
So
For-
far? Yeah.
Or
Well, what's the earliest Commissioner Olson would be available? Could they move it to later in the day?
5.
5.
So well,
Sun doesn't go down then. I mean, could they move it to? If you need to,
I will try.
otherwise,
and
can't.
Miss Wilbright is not here at the moment, so,
can we designate County Administrator Holte to be the,
Don't know if it's legal.
we don't know.
Assistant County Attorney, got any help for us?
Attorney?
Well, she said should, it doesn't say.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean statute doesn't say must.
so the statute is 204C dot 31. So if we could go with the understanding that Commissioner Meyer, then if it can be at 5 or later, Commissioner Olson.
Right.
Right,
Otherwise, see if I can do it.
right. I
Yeah,
think that would be
that's
the
it.
best.
What date is that?
The third,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, the 13th.
Yeah, and if we can find out early what the November date projected to be, so folks can plan around it.
Yeah,
I-
yeah, because we won't, the 3 of us won't.
Unless some major thing happens where that whole thing gets canceled, which is about a
Oh, it says
5%
shall.
chance.
The
The shall?
statute says the county canvassing board shall consist of the county auditor, the court administrator of the district court, the mayor or chair of the town board of the county's most populous municipality, and 2 members of the county board selected by the board from its members who are not candidates at the election. So it's one big sentence that says shall. So
Real?
it has to be.
But is that for the primary and the general election?
No.
Is there a distinction?
There is not,
Yeah.
when I read this subdivision, it does not give a distinction.
Director Sonnenberg, did you have something to offer?
Sure, I think you can, and Rebecca can probably look this up quicker than I can, but I think it does state that an appointed designee can be assigned as long as they are not in the election.
If one of these individuals fails to appear at the meeting of the canvassing board in the absence of any selection by the county board from among its own members, the county auditor shall appoint an eligible voter of the county who is not a public official or candidate for a public official to fill the vacancy. 3 members can quorum.
So
So
Chelsea
she can
Chelsea
appoint
can
somebody,
somebody.
but it couldn't be you.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Well, I
I'll
don't
go
know.
in that
You're not a
direction.
public official, like,
No.
because you're not.
No,
But she doesn't live
I'm
in,
not a
she's
Minnesota.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's
Ah,
right.
that's
Thank you.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I forgot.
We'll have to rent
She's
you
gonna
a
screw
apartment.
that old count.
Okay, somebody want to make a
Hotel
motion
for
to
the
that
day.
effect with all the contingencies?
Yeah,
I'll move to appoint Commissioner Meyer to the election canvassing board. And to try to request a time to be moved to 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
If that's not done, then we'll ask Ms. Wilbright to appoint.
but does it, I'm sorry, does it say, I mean, Commissioner Meyer's on the ballot for November.
Yes,
Does that
so I can't do
exclude
it
her for the primary?
No,
But she's not on this ballot.
She's not on this
Right.
ballot.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
okay, all right.
but yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
but the November you couldn't, right, all right.
She was on a primary ballot then.
Yeah, then,
Yeah,
right.
okay,
okay.
all right.
Well, Can
What-
you remind Commissioner Olson and I of that? Because it's gonna be, we're gonna have to make sure. our schedules
November?
are-
When the
We'll
November
send
election.
out the November information.
Yep.
Got it.
I think that needs a second. If that was stated
Oh,
clearly.
negative, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
clear-
and
clear as mud.
Okay, so the motion is made by Commissioner Vagley, second by Commissioner Elsing. And the motion is to appoint Commissioner Meyer to the Canvas Board to attempt to change the time of the board so that Commissioner Olson could also be appointed, and if not, to ask Auditor Treasurer Wilbright to appoint somebody per state statute to take that place. Okay?
Yes.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Discuss and or appoint Citizen Advisory Committee members.
I'll move to appoint Isabel McNally to
Second.
the Health and Human Services Advisory.
Yeah.
She's already on it as a ex officio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I need further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, he is appointed. Okay, we have two of what are actually kind of optional agenda items. It is 11:45. Do you want to proceed with them? Do you want to table them for a future meeting? What would you like to do?
Make a motion to table item 7.6 and 7.7.
Just
Second.
Okay,
okay, I guess we don't discuss tables, though, do we?
but go ahead.
Okay.
But go
Um,
ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I forwarded this to Ross Dunsmore, the resolution of an interim ordinance from Wright County. I think I did. Okay, so if maybe you could send that to all the commissioners.
Sure.
Kind of as a model that they went through, and the list of a citizen had a list of things too, so just for reference. And then we did have somebody attend the scenic, I think Mr. Dunsmore and some staff attended. There was a Scenic Byways State Committee meeting that I was unable to attend, and I don't know if there's any notes from that, Mr. Dunsmore?
Essentially, it was just a organizational meeting,
Okay.
getting ready to go to appoint steering committee members. So there was not a great deal of substance to it. So
Okay,
just
do you
kind
have
of
to
introduce.
apply to be a steering member, or?
They were looking for people to contact who are interested.
Oh, okay,
So a lot of names were thrown out there. It is going to be a 1 to 2 year process.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Dunsmore, I read through the presentation related to data centers. It indicated that basically the way our zoning ordinance is today, they could only be cited in a general industrial zoning area.
Currently, the variable within the ordinance, while we believe the agricultural natural resource zoning district is prohibited, there's a provision for essential services or other like that was referenced in the presentation. The definition does exclude buildings, so it seems to be fairly straightforward that someone could not argue that it would be a essential service and then under item 27 for a condition to apply for a conditional use permit.
Unless they included hogs.
Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. So I was trying to figure out how much of the zoning is general industrial, and so I use this map, but it's kind of hard to tell. They're little, like there's two pinks, which pink could you do that in your presentation when we get it?
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Okay,
As long as we've gone.
as we're breaking the rules
Yep.
before, yeah.
Modifying the rules. So do we have time to put it on I don't want to
Yeah.
table it forever. Is that okay? Do we have time, do you think?
Well, depends how robust of conversation you desire to have. But yes, we should be able to.
And in light of,
What did you say, next meeting? Is that
well,
what-
I just want to see like how long will it
The
be
night
tabled
meeting.
for?
Next meeting?
Yeah, just as long as we get to it.
Yep.
So I'm fine, especially being respectful of work schedules. I get that. But so just that it's not tabled forever. And in light of what Commissioner Ward found, if the staff could if the staff has time, like 1 or 2 options, what we could do in terms of, I didn't see a specific moratorium here, but is it 1 year? Entire states are,
Which one are you talking about?
I'm sorry, data centers.
Yeah, okay.
Data
I
centers.
think that we would probably
One that's,
we could do it ourselves.
one that's tabled we can't talk about.
Yeah, that we can't talk about, yeah.
But just so the staff next time could bring some options.
It had to go through the planning
Planning
commission,
commission.
and that's what the recommendation would be.
Yeah, it would, kind of as it indicates in the model, the current development model is they are not likely to try to develop in the township where we would have jurisdiction. What they do is they partner with municipalities, have them annex the land because they want those essential services nearby, roads, utilities. Trying to develop far out in the township is an unlikely development model. They also look for proximity to existing fiber optic network because that is essential and that's a major expense. So they don't seem to have much of an interest in trying to develop in the township.
I get all that, and that's very important. And is it New York State just passed statewide? It's going to be challenged in court, but
Yeah.
I just want to make it very clear that we do not want to see a data center. And so whatever we need to do
Well,
to get there.
that's your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself. That's
Well,
fine.
and
That's
now we
Commissioner,
don't,
right?
you know, we've got 3 townships that are broken away. Now they have to follow our rules, but you know, you got the city of St. Charles sitting right there with township close. So again, it's a
Okay, yeah.
potential.
So
Yeah.
let's have this conversation when we do.
Yes.
Okay, so we
Okay.
have a motion on the table.
You got a lot of things.
Made by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Olson to move these 2 items to our next agenda. Is that right?
Yes.
On the 25th or whatever the day is?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone's opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carried.
To clarify, you're just looking for potential moratorium language. Okay.
I like if it's-
Examples.
If it's that, what county was it?
Right.
Right county. Thank you. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so do you want a break or do you want to just start in on the budget?
Well, we had committee.
Committee reports.
Oh my God, I'm really sorry. And I didn't even adjourn the dang meeting.
No, no.
Sorry, I
that's
apologize.
okay.
Okay.
So excited for budget talk.
Yeah.
I am
Fucking
really.
money.
Like, okay,
Commissioner Vagrant.
so Commissioner Vagley had some comments.
I've gotten a few inquiries about the flock cameras in the city of Winona.
City.
And I'm embarrassed until 2 weeks ago, I didn't know what a flock camera was. Now I know a lot about flock cameras. I asked, I checked with some city police officers and Ben Klinger. Winona County has nothing to do with flock
Yep.
cameras.
No.
So I've been contacted by people in Minneapolis about Winona. So just to be
Yeah,
clear, the
'cause we
county has
need-
nothing to do with it.
We
We
may
had resolved this with, I had a constituent like a few months ago, the same thing, yes.
Yeah.
And secondly, Captain Obvious, I got to go first, I get to say it, is please encourage everyone to vote today. The more people that take part in the system, the better our democracy is. So I don't have a sticker yet. I'll be going after this meeting. So don't forget to vote in primaries in Wisconsin or in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Archives. Commissioner Ward, did you get a chance to go to that? To Family Nine on the Farm?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I unfortunately, I
Well
was
attended.
I wasn't out there, but I heard it was well attended. It was a great event. I was in Eastern Wisconsin for a conference and the merger meeting, and I just wasn't able to get there, but I just wanted to thank the Barkham family for hosting that. Jason Barkham is a classmate of mine, so thanks again for that. And thank you for everybody that showed up. And I heard it was a great event, well run dairy farm. So that was my only thing.
I'm passing out a 1-pager. The thing itself is actually like 5 pages long, and the Stockton Rolling Stone Minnesota City Watershed District is meeting Thursday or Friday, one or the other. And if you were really interested in this, you could probably attend their meeting to get more about it. But this is from the WinLAC Policy Committee meeting, and the city of Stockton has gotten this small cities planning grant for stormwater. They are trying to reduce the risk of flooding in the future by identifying storage areas that would be upstream so that they could potentially hold back or to slow water down as it is coming if we have a really heavy rain event. Sounds like a fabulous project. The grant really just covers the study itself. And then they potentially will be coming back for watershed-based implementation funds from WinLAC and from other sources to actually fund some of the water storage proposals once they get that far. And there's sort of a timeline on here about what it is that they'll be doing. But that sounds like a great project and would be very beneficial given heavy rains. That's it. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, the other day we had Southeast Service Southeast Emergency Communications Board, and that's the armor and all the radios and everything. There has been I'm part of a subcommittee, legislative committee. They're rewriting the statute. It's 403. If you love to read statutes, 403.36, and they're changing the composition of the statewide emergency communication board. They're just clarifying who's on that. But the big thing is that there is an armor funding task force that is being created. And there are AMC did have 2 county commissioners on it, and but I'm not sure the makeup of the other things. But our armor system is 25 years old. So everything's wearing out. Everything needs to be replaced. And the big thing is, can counties afford that? No. Should the state of Minnesota own, and even should the state of Minnesota own a lot of maybe our dispatch centers and such because of the cost? And again, we talked about the small counties around us. Can they afford it? Can we afford it? So it is an important task force and they're supposed to have a recommendation by February 15th, and that's a very short timeline. But there are two county commissioners, I think one from Scott County and another one from Pennington, so two different counties. But that is something that once we get new legislators in place, we will want to lobby them to do funding for updating armor because, you know, we just approved some new stuff and it's all very expensive. And should it, my approach is, should you be penalized because you live in a very rural area that you don't have communication service, or is that something the state should provide for all of us? And I did relate to earlier before the meeting, I had an emergency situation on farmland that I owned and a natural gas pipeline burst. They feel it was a lightning strike. And yeah, so it was natural gas burning. Luckily, there's no homes, no houses. It was just agricultural land. But my younger brother said there were 28 agencies on a conference call with this natural gas. And we have natural gas lines that go through Winona County. So it's something that can happen. And it's, I did touch base with the sheriff and he was going to follow up to see how they Houston County handled that. But it's this task force is going to be very instrumental in trying to get the legislators to figure out how to pay for upgrading this stuff versus letting the counties do that. Yeah, and everybody's got to go vote, turn out, vote. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody interested in adjourning this meeting? Okay, Commissioner Elson moves, Commissioner Olson seconds adjournment of the regular county board meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned. Do you want a break or do you want to go right on into budget?
We're in the bathroom.
Okay, want some water?
Get some more coffee. And maybe even a donut.
And maybe even a donut.
It's all new information here?
Yeah,
That
that
came
goes
in?
in your binder.
Okay. Whoop.
Have a tab that goes with that.
Okay, but Marcia, is that some from a previous meeting?
No, so this should have been in her mail.
Oh,
Okay.
like I got this much. So
Oh,
there's
okay,
some-
yeah,
There's
it's
other stuff there.
728 and
That was-
811. Okay, I didn't pick up.
She got more than that.
I got more. I got the inside scoop.
And it's what was in the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's all. Not-
So what we'll be
I
covering,
got my book, I'm sorry.
what we'll be covering today is the 811 packet that was provided.
Yeah.
And I can kick us off in conversation, but really thanks first to the staff and supervisors and everybody that's participated to get us to this point. Also to Maureen for, guiding me along in this journey of budget because it's my first go round.
It's still fun. Yeah.
And it is so much fun and there's so
And
much
easy.
opportunity.
Fun and easy.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But really, thank you. It's taken a collective and collaborative approach to get this far. We can start off really just to get a look at where we are. Is informational and exploratory. And we want to make sure that this board has a clear understanding of what's driving our budget, what the pressures are, and, perhaps some considerations for strategy as we go into setting the 2027 budget.
But you're not really asking for a decision today.
No,
Yeah. that's
no,
what I-
this is really to be as transparent as possible with what our initial go-around outcomes are from speaking with leadership teams to determine what the budget looks like if we were to have to do something today. So no decisions, but really just transparent and thorough communication is the goal. So I think the last time we met, there were some questions in regards to the sales tax update. I think Dwayne, maybe you had asked about that. So if you were to look at page 172 in the packet, you will see where we are in regards to what is actual. And so for transportation sales tax, we're at 2.2 million of a budgeted 2.3 million. And for jail, we're at 1.1 of a budgeted 1.4 million.
Just to, I know Marcia, and it's a good thing, like sometimes likes to know. So what I asked, please correct me if I'm reading it correct. Correct me if I'm not reading it correctly.
We're actually ahead of terms of projected versus actual.
No, we're behind.
No, I'm sorry, 230. So
We're
we're
behind.
50,000 behind, right?
Right.
But no,
Yeah, we budgeted 2,381 and we're only at 2,000.
Right, so if you, Dwayne, if
Sorry,
you were to
yeah.
look at the column, current percent of 26 budget, so we're 94% of the way there, 8 months in.
I would say we are way ahead.
Yes, so
Yeah.
then if you look at the assumed 12-month column, we are going to exceed budget
Yeah.
significantly
Because now
On
we,
both.
on both, yes, sir.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we capture
Half of it.
internet sales now, right? Aren't internet sales taxable in?
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah,
What's interesting is I watched a lot.
we're supposed
It
to
is
be.
Very inconsistent.
You did.
Yeah.
That's right.
So thank you. So we're gonna collect more.
Yes.
And that all has to go to pay down.
Yeah, we couldn't like set it for next year's.
So the transportation tax, that goes into the
General
transportation fund and
Right.
it's
Yeah, I
used
get-
for highway projects
Yeah.
only.
Yep.
And so it sits in that pot of money.
Now,
until
jail
it's
fund
used.
pays off.
Yes.
Because we set it that way, that we can only
To
use
pay.
it for the jail.
Yeah.
Right.
The transportation's in the pot.
Yes.
Yep.
If we were 300 over this year, we could choose to pay 300 extra. That's great. You're paying it down early. Or we could choose, because in case of next year, we do fall behind, could we put it in a reserve, a restrictive reserve?
My understanding is yes, we can,
We
but
could do-
it still can only
Yeah.
be used
Yes.
Yeah.
for.
It's good, but
So it
it
could
would be restricted reserve just
It
for
could be
that,
An offset.
in case we were behind the next year.
If we made if we were behind, this made the payment.
So like last year, we were short about 250,000.
Yep.
Where we
Yep.
did not collect what we thought we were going to.
But part of that was because it's the
Started 3
beginning,
months.
the story started.
Partial year,
Yeah,
right.
Right,
But
So-
again, it's an example of, you never know.
right.
So Commissioner Elsing, you say you watch it. Are you watching the sales tax in general or just our?
Oh, there's the 50-cent fee. There's supposed to be different
On the
sales
internet,
tax.
yeah, when
and
you buy
internet
stuff on
bill.
the internet.
Yeah.
And just because we do.
Well, so if we're not getting what we're due, I mean, we should somehow, because I get somebody that's in the
burden lies on the state to go after it,
The
you know?
port, in the Port Authority, though, they always question what we're collecting and such, and he says he follows that.
That's one of the big problems with the internet side of it is how do you know
Yeah.
who's keeping track of the transaction?
Right,
You know,
but I mean, that was
It's
supposed to
really
be a
down to
big
the-
thing. That was
it's
supposed to
really
be a
down
big
to
thing.
the company. Amazon's probably gonna hammer down to a T. You get into some of these other ones,
Yeah.
I bought something online from Lowe's and then I bought something online from Home Depot. Both of them did charge me.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, the
So
big guys are probably.
When the state gives it to us, are we getting any kind of, the question I have is the state giving it to, is the state collecting it, or are we getting
If
it?
it's an online purchase
It's supposed,
and I was in my URL or
Yeah.
my IP address
it
was
should,
here.
yeah, it should
Yeah.
be coming. So I guess my question is when we get the check from the state or however they transfer it, are they breaking it down at all?
No.
Okay, well, we should
The
have,
revenue has, like Commissioner Elsing said, that the burden to bear is on the state, and it is the Department of Revenue's job to collect that, distribute accordingly. We get one check.
well, we should ask them. I mean, just ask the
If the
question.
IP address is inside this county of
Yeah,
Winona,
are we
do we
getting-
get our quarter cent?
Yeah,
and
are
our
we
half cent?
getting it? I mean, again, if they're, because that was supposed to be a big thing. When we did the sales tax, a lot of people said, well, we have a retail base, but then they expanded it to internet
Well, no,
sales.
that's
So
a
a
great
rural
idea.
county that
I
doesn't have a retail center
maybe.
could do a sales tax. So I guess my question is, are we getting the internet sales?
I mean,
tax?
it would say my
Skip it over.
experience, Amazon is
That's
charging
right.
it because I just put
I-
in an order.
I bought
I
my
didn't
boat.
have my
That's
address
where it
there.
is.
There was all these taxes. When I put my brother's address in Portland on there, that's where I was sending it to, no taxes.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well,
But I
so
just
there,
want to make
there
sure
we
the
go.
state's giving us our money.
Okay, well, let's not get bogged
Yeah.
down.
Yes,
because
uh,
it's a
where's
long
that-
meeting.
Well,
Yeah, Commissioner Bagley, yeah.
just to clarify, so the 20, I'm looking at the lost, local, for the jail.
Oh, short term, 6
So-
months.
Yep, the budget was 1.4 million approximately, right?
Yep.
Assuming that this would be 1.9, so it's actually, is that correct?
Yeah,
That's correct.
So it's gonna
Maybe.
it's gonna be
Guesstimate.
almost $500,000.
That's correct.
So not now, but my first impulse is just to pay it down as quick as possible.
Sure.
But if staff has recommendations about maybe should we put it in a reserve or save it, but my first impulse
is pay it down as soon as possible and get
Right.
that thing, save interest, but
Yes.
not now, but for later, to have staff let us know.
Yeah.
That's a significant, $500,000.
But it's a lot.
Yeah.
Do we, so I like that idea, but we have zero reserve right now, correct? For this.
For this,
For that. Would it make, I mean, a lot of times what you see, what I've seen, I guess, on state recommendations, you look at, you know, even just homeowners in general, it's usually 6-month reserve. Even if we started with a 3-month reserve, is that fair to say we've got a 25% reserve in case we have that? I can't see us taking a really big dive on that number.
Too, but
Yeah,
it does
You know,
lower our risk.
but it does lower our risk at least maybe 3 months. Would that be fair? And then, you know, then after that, yeah, throw her everything we do. Let's throw her and get her paid for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe give us just a little cushion and then throw everything in.
And remind us what, I forgot what the bond, geo bond, what rate was versus,
$525,000.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
the rate.
What the rate was.
Three.
No, it's 2 something.
That was over 4, wasn't it? You'll find out.
A couple different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 2 different bonds there.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and we can do both. It doesn't have to be all one. All the
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But the good news is that it's coming in above.
Yeah,
So,
that doesn't add to the
Yes.
budget.
no, it doesn't.
Right, I mean, again,
Oh,
you
so
know,
let's-
last year we.
But it gets the
Hey,
jail,
what?
gets the jail
Yeah, let's-
paid off soon.
let's look at the-
That's good numbers.
Let's focus on what we're looking at.
Are we good to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
There was also a question in regards to License Center, and that information is before you. I guess I don't want to glean over anybody's interest in this. However, I think there are 2 outstanding questions that are involved with following up on that, and that is found on page 169, items 1 and 2.
So just a note, I did follow up to affirm that I have the right name and contact information, and I sent a second request.
Since they didn't answer.
They didn't. So I'll let you know as soon as we hear.
Thank you.
A name of somebody interested in buying it or?
No,
No.
at the state, a contact. At the
Oh,
state
at
to
the
answer the
state.
question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, moving right along, and I'm on page 169. So when we look at and exhaust our view on what's in the budget as of today for this working session, you'll notice that there are some significant drivers of which we've, conversated about before. So that's going to be our insurance, our wage and benefits, and then what we're doing for a CapEx plan, and then where are we in regards to outside agency requests. So those were the 4 items that we look at in regards to percentages of levies that are easily identifiable.
I'm probably missing something simple. If the assumption is we're gonna freeze all outside agencies, why does it impact the levy by 2%? Are there?
It represents 2% of the levy.
Oh, so it's not a 2% increase?
No,
Perfect.
no.
Thank you.
Did you
But
get
it is
anything?
still part of the levy.
Did you
Yep.
get anything back?
But it's not a 2%
Yeah,
increase.
do we know, is the 30% still?
Yeah, have you got
we
the health
think?
insurance any info? Yeah, you were getting,
I mean, well, I've got, and this was the projection that I mentioned last time, right? And certainly I'll hand that out. And this is a projection, and it was 19%. Verbal, they're saying 16%, but we don't have that. This is first quarter information.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
So, but that is 19% is what I've been. And, if our data, if it goes up, the trends, then.
these are 2 pages here. I would give this
Is
one.
that your handwriting? 'Cause
And
you-
what
you
did
go
it
back
end
to
up
school.
last year you hit us with?
Master's degree, but yet
What was last year's increase?
Go to Catholic school and get hit by a nun?
What did last year's increase end up to be?
22.
22%.
It's in Iowegian.
Oh, that's Iowa language.
Last year, 22%. That is just absurd.
Yeah, I need my handwriting.
No, I don't.
The 22%, the 22%, and then.
Your handwriting is absurd, but I think it was the 22%.
My father couldn't write with either hand. He went to Catholic school and got hit by the nuns with a ruler for being left-handed. So there you go.
Okay, so based on 1/4 of information, 19%, but you guys are saying 30 to protect us. And it could go down, and we're not quite sure when we'll know, but
Well,
by December we'll know.
He meant I asked, I'm pushing to get that.
I appreciate that.
But
Well, I wish you wouldn't use that shock therapy model of 30%.
It's much easier to come down.
I
than
know,
it is
but
to- I need you to increase the levy.
It's,
So
yeah.
I understand that, but it doesn't go over well when we have to say, well, we have to.
Oh, by
increase
the
it
way,
by
now it's,
800,000.
Marcia, do you want a protein bar?
yeah,
There's more donuts over here.
shock therapy, 30%.
Wait, I have like a chocolate one and a peanut butter one.
Paint butter.
Yeah, they're both here.
Peanut
Pass those
butter's my
down.
choice.
One of
Thank
those.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
and I'll work on my.
It's okay.
And, you know, as we go through, please ask questions as they are. We do have some items that go along to put numbers to words as well. But when we look at, the levy, you know, as far as what it looks like when we pulled everything together, you know, we are looking at if this was the case, a $6 million increase over last year's levy, and that would equate to 22.21% increase.
Yeah.
So just again, these are very preliminary, and we have not had a opportunity to rehash or revisit with department heads, leadership supervisors that are responsible for their budgets to get in there. But we just wanted to provide this outlook.
What did we reduce? You know, I have issues that this, you know, you use these levy impact such, so those are all increases. Most of them. I mean, you said like the outside agency, it equates to 2% of the levy. So I guess which ones are you saying are increasing the levy and which ones are staying the same? And then where did we save? Did we save any money? Because we had we had openings, wages and contracts and health. We didn't have
Yeah.
a person in, we should have some savings.
Yeah.
You ever point out the savings we've done?
Yeah, there's a number for that turnover. I saw it.
Yeah, there's a turnover. It's a term, yeah.
Turnover savings, 0.5.
The tracking spreadsheet, however, that needs to get updated.
Yeah.
to Truly reflect.
Yeah.
So that's the FTEs.
Yes.
That you're referencing, yeah.
Still, it
Um,
does, there's a number.
Right. So we will have more of that for you, you know, at the next one. It's just we're trying to get as much of this in front of you as possible.
I mean, you're always spending more money, but Pete's sake, can't we ever save any money or cut any money?
Well, I think if you were to look at all of the individual line items that are represented in our budget, you would see that there are supplies, there are, you know, in certain instances where we're doing third-party contracts that are going down. They're just not
I don't
represented.
know.
Right. I mean, it's not, if I were to put it in a percentage, it would not be material to the conversation.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it is just.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the capital expenditures, those are big ticket items.
Yes.
Correct. So, yeah, if you were to look at,
We said this last time. They're not gonna be active levies. It's gonna be bond.
There'll be something.
well, the
that we get-
courthouse would be a very obvious item that would be
With,
bonded.
with
Yeah.
$1.5 million overrun on the highway side, are we able to cover some of the costs there?
I'm sorry?
With $1.5 million on the transportation, are we able to offset the 585 here on the capital expenditure? I'm on page 170.
Well, no, it goes into actual I don't
Does
think
it
we
have
buy
to be?
equipment.
I didn't know. I don't
Yeah.
know the ins of that. It has to be a road project.
But one of the questions that comes up is, you know, we keep buying these plow trucks and everything, and they're very expensive. Have we analyzed on those kind of expenditures leasing?
We have asked Mr.
Recent-
Kramer to review that.
Review it, because maybe it makes more, you know, it changes. And I've never leased a vehicle or anything, but Josh, you probably know more about it. Sometimes some of this big stuff, maybe we should just lease it.
So, well, or even renting, you know, you look
Rent,
at
yeah.
how often do you really use an excavator? How often do you use some of these things? And
I've seen
oftentimes
one sitting in my ditch all
a rental
week,
charge
not moving.
will supersede the depreciation alone,
Yeah.
especially at a new level.
just to talk about that a little further, when we revisit with Dave, because we will, his groupings has a large impact to the budget.
Yes.
One of the items that I want to discuss with him and his team is the possibility of meeting with a financer who does capital equipment specialties, and to take a look at what our best practices and what has changed in regards to salvage values, what our usages are, because I mean, people love buying county equipment because they are, low use, high value.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's, a conversation to be had.
And I would also encourage with Mr. Kramer's, what do our neighbors have that, again, if you don't use it every day, is there something we can jointly own or we can rent from a neighboring county? We don't need to own everything ourselves. It doesn't need to sit in our shed.
That's what I was alluding to, is a lot of this equipment depreciates faster than the value of use. I know that all too well.
Yeah.
When you're in the fertilizer industry, you have $1,300,000 trailers that get used 3 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I can't put them on the road for anything else. What are our better options? Do we go something older and fix it up? Do we go new and watch it depreciate? It's very, very common. And what I see oftentimes is new equipment depreciating faster than the value of hours being put on the unit. And I can tell you with, I own $500,000 floaters that I know exactly every hour put on. I know exactly what my cost is on that hour, whether it's idling or performing a job. It's $145 an hour. That's just for the machine. So, then add everything else on top. So that's the way we really need to look at this. And Phil, to allude to your point, is who's really sitting down and looking at the amount of hours being put on? What's the depreciation scale? Take out the operating costs and just look at the depreciation aspect of that unit. And that should determine, do I lease, do I buy, do I rent?
And I'll go back to what you were originally asking about, this differential, right? Between the projected budget.
Correct.
That's one
What
point.
can that revenue, I know it goes into the transportation pot, but is it earmarked? Can we use that for anything?
I mean,
No, it is earmarked when we passed that. Yeah, it was
It's
very specific.
To
Yeah.
boots on the ground.
Yeah.
But could
roads.
yes to all that, but could we we can do both. Could we either do more road repair, more bridge repair, and or decrease the amount allocated to roads and bridges? $1.5 million like for next year's allocation.
I see what you're saying.
But Dwayne, that does a mile of road.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
right.
how many miles of road? That's the problem.
1.5 million is how many percentage points?
I know,
Is
but it
240
just doesn't fix a road.
50, you just say $250,000.
It does nothing when you talk about a road.
And statutorily, it cannot offset what you would normally put into your budget
Right,
to
we couldn't
do
put
those
plan.
projects.
That's right.
But
Yes.
I think that we have skirted that
Thank you.
line.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Good point.
Actually, I think we should put more of the budget, the local levy into roads and less into some other things. But yeah,
I'm looking at lowering the levy, but you're right. You're right.
Yep.
You're right. Cancel plan. You're
yeah,
right.
we can't. And Commissioner Kavesi supported that house in your district because she wanted that road done out and
I would have supported it too.
Yeah, well, Jim Palmer did.
yeah. Uh-huh.
The good thing about that money is when leveraged to CASA funds, it goes a long ways in comparison to,
Yeah. Oh, we did.
like, I've been getting a lot of calls on these triple digit roads.
Mm-hmm.
And something started long before any of us were ever here.
Yeah, they're,
And unfortunately, there's no going back on that, but there are some in pretty
they're getting pretty
disrepair.
bad.
Yeah, I mean, what Dave Kramer says is we're getting behind less quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Good,
just,
we
yeah,
have the
you're
local
you're just
option.
driving into the wall at 80 miles an hour instead of 100.
There you go.
Like when you're racing cars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Explain some of the brain damage, right?
Wow.
So I'm getting punchy.
Can we give him a bar?
Where, you need a bar, Dwayne? You get hungry? These are pretty good too.
I mean, when I'm over here.
I tried to give him one and he didn't want
Yeah,
it.
you
so-
should, yeah.
round, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're next, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hikers.
next time.
watch it.
Sorry. All right, go on.
Yeah, well, the other item that, is important to cover is that, we've talked about this as well, but there are more, information points coming in regards to what we can expect from SNAP program cost increases and the funding that is not coming along with it. So you'll see some information there that, again, we've been able to be notified or told of certain things that are happening with SNAP, and we're learning as we go. And we're trying to incorporate that into the conversation.
You know, one of the things on SNAP would be interesting, and I don't know if it's quickly obtainable and such, but what do our grocery store, you know, don't they have to track SNAP dollars and such? What is the local impact of SNAP to the grocery market? I mean, how many dollars of groceries do they sell through SNAP, like Hy-Vee, Midtown?
Yeah, well, the benefit per month is like $540,000. Right? So
For
$500,000 a month is what the benefit is
To
to the
Winona.
people who get this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Should it all
But-
be expended, right? I mean,
That's
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean,
So
so
it's a lot.
people need to know that SNAP isn't all bad because it does support the
Oh.
grocery industry.
Yeah,
You know.
that's how, by design, it was meant to give
Well,
money
it
to
feeds
help
people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
they own
yeah,
grocers, absolutely.
yeah,
There's that.
yeah. But I mean, that's something that I think sometimes is overlooked. That if we didn't have SNAP dollars, what would like the Midtown
Oh,
revenue
absolutely.
drop? How much
Yep.
would it drop? I don't know. Okay,
At least 524,000.
yeah, well, if you divide it.
If you go to
Walmart,
Hy-Vee.
Hy-Vee,
Yeah.
all the- The grocery store in St. Charles, I'm sure has a, yeah, would impact them. I don't know. Okay.
Just also to mention, there are state programs and federal programs that have decreased the amount of funds that they are providing to Winona County. Just touching base on CapEx, you know, we detailed this last time. It's not changed since last time, but you know, the bonded items in there would be the courthouse. And as of right now, you know, we just need to talk about what we're gonna fund the other items from.
What's
And
the
by courthouse, I'm
IP?
sorry, by courthouse, that's what
The
I'm,
roof.
by the roof, which
Yeah.
is giving me a lot of things give me heartburn, but it used to be $2 million. Now it's $3.5 million.
Every time we come back to it, it goes up.
The price is
Get it.
going
And
up.
I'm actually expecting, because this is last year's number, I'm expecting Mr. Kramer to come back with a higher.
Higher.
We'll get a
Got a
quote
hard
from the
time
Amish to do it, Dwayne.
2.5
They do
years, it's doubled
excellent
in
work.
cost,
I mean,
Exactly.
It doesn't, I,
In my experience building my house, my estimate was a year and a half old, and I am significantly painfully significant. And it's
Yeah.
not because I upgraded.
yeah, but I mean, I own a lot of real estate. And I mean, I was just over in eastern Wisconsin yesterday and last week looking at buying acres of land, like grain bin setups. I mean, we're talking, the house isn't even a consideration in comparison, and no, it doesn't double in 2 years. So something's off here. Either the initial estimate was just that far off, or something's just inflated to get this where we want, it's gotta be off one way or the other. So materials have not. So labor's not gone up that much.
And I know that there are so many things, there are so many irons in the fire. The law enforcement center is probably a higher priority in terms of maintenance and but if it's even remotely close to that kind of inflation, we can take care of that. Even though no one me included, don't want to spend limited money on that.
Yeah, that's right.
Every time I walk in the building, I look up there.
One of the things too that, you know, we're getting kind of thrown a bunch of things at us at once, right? We've kind of got this law enforcement, we've got this roof, we have some obviously things that are offset from the federal government and everything else. Has there been, can we bond cumulatively, or do we need to bond individually?
We can do cumulative.
That's what you're suggesting too.
Yes.
Because when you look at
Smooth it
these
out.
large situations like this, you know, there's a little bit of rip the Band-Aid off. Obviously, we need to whittle this thing down, but do we look at this and say, okay, we've just got it overwhelming? And I'm not saying to go down this road, I'm just spitballing. But do we look at taking whatever we need to do for these either CapEx projects or just the increase in some of this, grouping it together, come up with the funding, divide it out over 10 years, pay it back down? You know, I mean, this might be where we end up with this thing.
yeah, but
Because
you're
at
not
22%.
suggesting labor or supplementing these programs that the state and the fed are You're not,
So I'm just saying when we're
you're
looking
talking
at
about tangible.
things that we might have to throw.
Brick and
together.
mortar.
Yeah,
Brick
okay.
and mortar.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought you were
but-
kind of going down the.
But you're not suggesting, let's say, we should bond for the snowplow.
No,
No,
well,
I'm
those are
just,
expensive too, Jesus.
Yeah, but we
You
might,
might.
it might make sense.
and it might make sense. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just suggesting, well, the only thing I'm suggesting is that we might end up putting this thing in an umbrella just to pull the levy down so it's tangible to the taxpayer
Just smooth it out.
and smooth that system out a little bit.
Exactly.
And we might have to pick or choose what we throw into that bond. And then maybe it's a sunset situation, very similar to the jail, that any extra money, boom, pays that thing off and it's now earmarked and we can't go off and start another project.
We just had this conversation.
But we need,
So you are
you have
thinking
that
about that.
Yeah.
page 173. What would be interesting though is to, you have the bonds on the top there, is the dates that those
Expire.
end.
Sure. I mean,
You know, give us some idea what we're already committed to on
Do
these
we have
bonds.
anything coming to an end?
That's gonna close.
Yeah.
No.
It
No.
did.
But
It did a few
It's a
years.
little bit.
But maybe a date on those.
Sure.
yeah. let
I
us
mean,
get
we
the
have the
wording.
amortization
Yeah.
schedules on every one of them.
Like in the time that I've been in office, we've closed the bond on this, the update on this building.
Mhm.
And what about that 500,000 we're getting back? What can we do with that?
So we have inquiries into the state auditor, and then Phil and I will be doing a presentation at the next meeting.
What's the IT? I mean, after all these cyber attacks, where are we at with IT? What's IT? I mean, 150,000 IT improvements, that doesn't sound like a whole lot.
Sure. So there's a obvious cycle in IT infrastructure replacement, right?
Mhm.
So instead of doing it all at once.
Yep.
That this is a set aside amount to do it as it occurs.
Is this
instead of
up and
all at
above
once.
what they're requesting?
So
Their
this is
normal
the
budget?
refresh. So like every 8 to 10 years, we need to do a refresh of the system. So it's intended to put away 150,000 every year. So we're not coming to the board saying we need $1 million.
Right, yeah. Because the last time we were lucky enough to have ARPA funds and that's what we used,
Right.
like
So
1.5 million
that's the
on.
Intent of this is that we keep
But
putting
can it-
money aside.
Can it be
to do
dipped
the
into?
refresh. I'm sorry?
Can it be dipped into?
Unrestricted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have asked and I have declined that request. The intent is not to have a slush fund
Mhm.
or I need this. No, we need to plan.
Yeah, and so
That
what's,
include Bob's infrastructure fund?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, that's already in the budget.
Okay.
The draft. So I was a little surprised with this request, but I'm
so is that a lump sum out? I mean, what's the, I guess, what's the amortization look like? Are they allowed to take so much out each year for this continuing and, I guess, like you said, coming with $1 million. So do we have a 10-year replacement where we go, okay, now we're at the checkout, fund goes to zero and we start all over? Or is this a continuance or how does that work? Every 5 years? I don't understand how they do that. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
Yeah, we take 150,000 for 5 years, we got 750,000, we're gonna check up 750,000, update a bunch of stuff, rinse and repeat.
So the intent was to put away 150,000 a year with the understanding that we'd have enough put away in 10 years to be able to do a refresh of the system. So we would use that designated money to do that instead of saying, hey, commissioners, I need you to increase the levy to do this.
It's gonna
So we're
be,
planning for the refresh because we know it's gonna happen.
yeah, is that, I guess when I look at that, I mean, obviously, can we put it in an interest bearing account? And can we,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a segregated, I didn't know if there's if we know we're not gonna touch the money, putting it into something more long-term that could generate a higher return. And then I'm not gonna use the word irrevocable, but who has the grounds to, besides nobody else, including the administrator, would have the grounds to dip into that
Not without our permission.
without our permission,
Correct.
but could another board dip into it if they decide
Yes.
we want that money?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
3 people could.
It can always,
Yeah,
it
that's
can
right.
always be
Quickly, yeah.
undesignated.
Cause I can see that happening down
The
the road.
board's
Mhm.
decision
Yeah,
ultimately.
Yeah.
that's right.
The
Yeah.
finance director also could make a recommendation to utilize that.
Yeah.
You know, if, you know, IT director were to work with them and say, I really need X and here's why, it could come as a recommendation from the finance director as well.
And so years ago, we kind of, as a board, tried to put away a small amount for emergencies, and we had to abandon that because it just didn't, because the budgets kept going up and the levy kept going up. We didn't levy, like, was it 1/4% or something? Yeah, we tried to build up a fund so that we didn't have these radical
And I think
shifts.
maybe it was 5 years ago that we went to the lowest possible reserves allowed by state statute.
Yeah.
It had been a couple points higher than that.
Well, we're talking IT, and I don't know if they would do this or who does this, but this is a suggestion with all our software licensing and everything to eliminate any unused licenses, because we pay dearly for those things. And if we got stuff sitting out there, I specifically remember the county attorney's office, we bought some big fancy program that was supposed to talk to law. I think that was a complete disaster. So it's, who reviews those things?
Chad does.
Okay, okay. So I mean, we shouldn't be paying for stuff we're not using or licenses or,
A lot of that was cleaned up during the cyber issue.
okay, okay. And I'm sure we had a bunch. I mean, I'm sure we did. Okay.
But we need to have.
Well, you need to.
We need our Zoom ones. We need.
Zoom, yeah.
We need our Zoom ones.
Yes, I appreciate.
Otherwise you
Zoom.
can't get in.
I appreciate Zoom. Yes, allows me to not travel as much. Windshield time is not productive time.
But what's the levy point right now? It's a bit dollar.
285.
And the 3.5 on the roof is on there. Correct?
Yep. Right now. Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, that's totally unacceptable in my opinion.
Well, it's right there. Everybody agrees.
Well, makes me grumpy. Yeah.
And by right, these CapEx projects need to be drawn out. Unless we have the cash reserve, which we don't.
Yep.
Yep, some.
We have to have Todd sitting over there, and I see I got something from Cavera about sports physicals or something. I don't need one of those, but are they, I would like a report. I would like a report from them that our usage and is it really, again, it's only been 6-8 months. Okay, yeah. Is it panning out for us for the investment money?
You're all over Tavera.
Well,
It's optional for employees, right? And
I know, but we're paying for it. I've never used it,
True.
And such. So I just don't know
Yep.
how people use it and is it really,
they're saving money. And so
Yeah.
far it
It
is.
saved us money.
Yep.
yeah,
If you remember,
Yeah.
they was
I
giving
do.
us a 29% increase.
yeah, yeah.
And getting Convera and the broker, we're still saving, it's paying for itself, but it is, I can get you the utilization.
Gotta work harder.
Do you think is that the old charge them double, give them half off thing?
Yeah.
But it's gonna be 29% if you don't do this, so you do it, nobody really knows.
Slick
but
Dale's pit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do we really know that,
Well, we could have went with the 20. But I think it was, because it was locked in unless we was going to.
Anything else?
Nothing outside of what is in the packet for you to review. We just touched on, I wanted to bring up that the fund reserves, we'll revisit that the next time we meet. We will have a little bit more.
Where's that roughly?
Do you have?
Where is it roughly now?
Yeah.
So
Page 170, you got a little.
I would presume less than the last time we met. And I really don't mean to be a smart aleck by that answer.
I don't know if you had it.
Yeah.
If you could let us know next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
We will have the reported number next time.
I have a couple of constituents that have concern. We say we're transparent and whatever we put at the beginning of our thing, but they feel our financial page is so outdated and the information is old and not current that we're not being transparent. So, and I know cyber and everything, so I don't look at it. They do.
I do, but what's their, I do look at it.
Well, like, I think the number of employees and it seemed like there was something else
So
too.
they're going through that portal.
Yeah, they're using something there that's available to the public. And
that's-
I've never inquired
It's opened up,
specifically.
right? It's opened up.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if it's not current 2025 data, they're saying some stuff's back 2024.
No, the budget, there's not a current, like the 25 budget isn't out there as a separate document like some of the past ones were.
Yeah, well, and
You're
just,
gonna
so
have to do, yeah, and you.
so it's- I guess
you
look
kinda
at
have-
it. If we
It's
got,
year to date. I mean, you could see year to date everything and you could do it by department and I do that frequently, but.
If you go to like the Winona, I just looked at it right now, the Winona County website, and there's a tab on there that says financial transparency.
Yeah, that's. the
Yeah.
one.
And
Yep.
it brings this up. It
Yep.
is like current like,
Yep.
so.
okay, so well, I can inquire, but again, we don't need to have old outdated data on a
You can
website.
go back 10 years, but it does give you year to date
Okay.
actual.
I would
I
have.
don't mind
I
having
should-
the old stuff. I just would like the current if we could.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it
an
needs to be
option.
updated. Needs to be, or if it's not updated, close it or something, you know, if we're not using it.
I think it is up to date and I do use it frequently. When I give presentations, I always print
It
off.
says
them.
updated, it was updated August 5th of this year.
Oh, okay, well,
That's what this says.
One of the things I do want to do is thank you guys very much. The shotgun approach to the budget before, especially if you're new to these numbers, I'm not new to doing budgets, but it's a lot to absorb all at once.
Yeah.
And breaking this down in sessions, sometimes maybe as inconvenient as it is, but it does help. It gives time to process things. So I like it. Thank you.
I do think that the book, even though like maybe we veered away from using it in the way that you'd intended, I found that extremely helpful. And to be able to see, especially let's say, even in this packet, you can see that there's a $22 million budget for Health and Human Services. And 9 million of it is 9.6, I think, is gonna have to come out of the levy. And what that represents, what's the unfunded mandates from HHS, what that means to us. So I find a lot of those numbers from that book and from here really helpful. And I honestly, it's just my opinion. I think there's more transparency.
referring to this as the book?
Yep. that
Oh,
book.
okay.
I think there's more transparency than there were 4 years ago. Okay, is there anything else?
We ever gonna go to start out at zero and build a budget? Seems like we have the budget and then we just increase it.
I think we started at zero when we did the process, to be candid. When we were, when we presented the budget for department heads and supervisors, et cetera, to complete, I didn't give them a 27 template copy and paste off at 26.
Okay. Because what I'm saying is that, okay, so today we had to start a health department. What would it
It's
look
worth
like?
clarification.
And
It's not
How
all
many
management.
people?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're Jared, we're gonna just go,
That
how
would be
many
good to
people would I need
figure out
to do the services that I'm mandated to do?
Right, and I think
I got
what
more.
we
You know what I
looked
mean?
at
Would be good to
is
clarify.
that
How many
those
people
tabs that we
and what they
talked
get paid.
about
Well,
originally,
to me,
the giant, the
I'm a
paper,
food
Yeah.
that
background
they
person,
mandated
like,
non.
the money
Yeah.
going
That would be
towards,
zero zero.
like, you know what I
In
mean?
my mind,
I assume
Mhm.
that that's
And
for
it's-
staff.
it's not
who are
fun.
Frontline.
No.
Right,
people,
that
but
is not
That would be
fun.
good to
When you're only
clarify.
serving.
Thanks, Mark.
Job
I just-
security.
it's like, how much
Job
management
security.
Oversight does the library really need, especially when you look at the size of the majorities, plus they have their own.
Okay, Marcia, this is in.
It's being.
Perhaps you've not.
No, no, I.
Being blown away. I
I-
expect
I'm gonna
a
back up.
significant larger budget, but.
It seemed like FTEs
Well,
was
and,
back in
you know,
2024.
If I go here and I go financial
And
transparency
Yeah,
page,
my whole
and
thing
then,
was,
um,
that's why I asked the
look at it,
question.
I go to revenue and
You know,
expense.
well, we're not really governed by this, we're really governed by that.
Every
This,
night, our general ledger
government,
system,
but I'm seeing
IFS,
growing.
talks to something called open value every night, and then it will show where we're at
Money.
down here. But there are some things like budgeted FTEs.
Yeah.
This information is likely.
Yeah.
I
See, that's one that, that was pointed out.
I would like to
Because
understand where what data points need to be put in so this can be refreshed. So I think that there's a good question and answer there.
Because you're right, because our wages is going to our budget. I think that's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly.
So
it.
I will point out to this Marine, and will know exactly where, well, somebody will know where this is coming from.
Okay.
And it may be a data point we just need to refresh, pull off 4 years here and add our 4 years where we are current.
That would be good. 'Cause You're right. That's exactly what they.
I think that's what they're looking at.
Yep.
But just to speak collectively about where Winona County is
Cognitive
for
improvement,
revenues and
right.
expenses. I
Uh-huh.
do believe that that's current.
Correct. Okay,
Yep.
okay. But you're right, that was exactly.
But I will address that,
Okay.
you know.
Oh, there you go,
Your
Chris.
constituents.
Not gonna eat it?
No, you save that for emergency. I usually have one in my bag, but I think there's one in my glove box. It's probably really soft and mushy.
Yeah, well, it's hot out
Today,
there.
with it.
But honestly, I will lose it if I don't, sometimes I just have to eat something, right? And I'm grateful that the protein really helps.
Yes,
Kind of thing.
yes,
Mix
they're
it up.
satisfying. We have a lot of
Right,
protein
exactly.
bars. They fill you up, they make you feel like they're functioning. Thank you.
Oh, you were in Asante? Were you in Asante County? Where were you? You were just.
Well, I went to Madeline Island last, and then before that, it was